Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. Here, we bring you fun, thrilling, and immersive novels in audio form. With a growing library of audiobooks, there's something here for every listener. Do you like Naruto fan fiction? We have it all. From powerful ninja battles to amazing sage arts and wood-style moves, or even Tsunoda's boobs, you can enjoy epic adventures anytime. Love One Piece stories? Soar through the skies with Moonwalk, sense the world with observation hockey, clash with enemies using armament hockey, spending the night with Nami and Robin, and rise to fame by unleashing your conqueror's hockey. Become a true pirate of the seas. Your adventure starts here. Want even more? You can go full Bankai. Let's go. We offer a wide range of stories, including Fairy Tales, Hunter x Hunter, High School DxD, Marvel and DC, Harry Potter, and many more. So, what are you waiting for? Jump into endless adventures today. We're waiting for you at Novel Love Hearing. If you ever choose to make one, just don't regret it. The moment a trade begins, Rei-Oh will make sure you receive exactly what you wish for. And you, in return, should fulfill your side of the bargain. For the first time, Yukino heard the perspective of someone directly involved in a trade she had judged as dirty. When she thought it over, she found she couldn't easily refute it. She didn't know everything Siko and the others had experienced. But Saya's recent trade was something she had witnessed firsthand. If Rei-Oh hadn't arrived due to the trade, Yuriko Takagi would have died at the hands of the undead. And without his ability to cure infection, she would have turned into one herself. For some, a seemingly unequal trade was simply their last, desperate hope. And Rei-Oh? He had become the one who could grant these wishes. Yukino couldn't help but imagine herself in Saya's position. What if her sister or mother had been Yuriko? What would she do in that situation? Yukino clenched her fists, her throat tight with emotion. Just putting herself in Saya's shoes was enough to feel a sense of helplessness that nearly choked her. She realized her choice likely would have been the same. Seeing that her words had stirred deep reflection in Yukino, Siko's lips curved in a faint smile. She had a feeling that this seemingly upright, cool-headed girl might soon find herself lying alongside her under Rei-Oh. Yukino suddenly raised her head. Bujojima-san, would you mind protecting me for a while? Protect you? Why, what do you intend to do? Siko asked, intrigued. I want to try taking down an undead myself. This thought had surfaced as her understanding of the world shifted. Despite being an ordinary person, she didn't want to end up like Tomoyaki, helpless and unable to fight back. She needed to face these threats with courage. All right. Siko agreed without hesitation. She was thinking ahead for Rei-Oh's sake. She didn't want their future companion to be a mere bystander. Meanwhile, everything was going smoothly for Rei-Oh and Yukino Shida, but back in their original world, Yukino's sister, Haruno Yukino Shida, was anything but calm. Where did Yukino go? At work, Haruno had heard about the death at the academy and tried calling Yukino, only to get an out-of-service area message. But how could that be possible? Where could Yukino have gone? She opened the thermal imaging feed, waiting for nearly half an hour with no sign of Yukino. Abandoning that plan, Haruno went straight to Yukino's apartment, using her key to search every room, but her sister was nowhere to be found. Frowning, she headed next door and rang Rei-Oh's doorbell. She wanted to ask him if he had seen Yukino, but when the door opened, it was a girl who answered. Mai looked at her curiously. Can I help you with something? Haruno was surprised to see her, vaguely recognizing her, but Yukino's situation was more pressing. Is Rei-Oh home? I'm sorry, but he's out right now, Mai replied with a shake of her head. I see. Not wanting to give up, Haruno pressed further. By any chance, have you seen the girl from next door? Next door? Mai recalled that Yukino lived next door, so she quickly tagged her in the chat group. Mai Sakurajima, Yukino Shida, there's someone here who looks a lot like you, asking about you. What should I say? Mai Sakurajima, image, Yukino Shida, my sister. Mai Sakurajima, no wonder you look alike, so, she's your sister. Yukino Shida, yes. She's my sister, Haruno Yukino Shida. Yukino Shida, I'll be back from the trade in under 2 hours. Just tell her you haven't seen me. Mai Sakurajima, got it. Taking Yukino's cue, Mai turned back to Haruno and shook her head. I'm sorry, Yukino Shida-san, I haven't seen her. I see, sorry to bother you. Despite her disappointment, Haruno managed a polite smile before heading back to Yukino's apartment. Yet something still felt off. A strange sense of unease nagged at her. She mentally replayed her conversation with Mai, dissecting each line. Suddenly, a realization struck her. The name. It was the name. Haruno was certain she hadn't introduced herself to Mai. So, how did Mai know her name was Yukino Shida? Haruno's eyes narrowed. Could Yukino's disappearance have something to do with her? The out-of-service message conjured all kinds of scenarios in her mind, though she didn't want to raise an alarm just yet. I'll wait a bit longer, but if Yukino still didn't show up, she'd have no choice but to report her missing. Haruno, is it? Rei-ao noticed Mai's message. He guessed that Haruno's sudden concern was likely due to worry over Yukino, but he wasn't inclined to pay it much attention. Right now, Saya Takagi was the priority. Still, her endurance left a lot to be desired. It was one thing to not be as trained as Sako, but she couldn't even keep up with Rei. She was already muttering that she couldn't go on, looking as if she might collapse any second. Rei-ao felt a bit helpless. They hadn't even completed a round yet, and already. With a sigh, he considered calling Rei in for a turn. After all, his patience had limits. Just then, he noticed someone else in the room. "You're still here?" Standing not far off was Yuriko Takagi. Yuriko's heart ached as she watched her daughter's weary expression, but her eyes couldn't help but stray back to Rei-ao. His flawless physique, and, well, his impressive build. Looking at Saya's exhaustion, it all made sense. Biting her lip, Yuriko made a difficult decision. Ding. Yuriko Takagi has initiated a trade request. Trade request. Allow her to take Saya's place as payment for the trade. Ding. Please select the trade condition. Chapter 104. The trade with Yuriko Takagi. Rei-ao paused when he saw the trade request, giving Saya a moment to catch her breath. He looked at Yuriko Takagi with surprise. "Are you serious?" he asked. "Yes, after all, she is my daughter," Yuriko replied, her words sounding noble, though her gaze wavered slightly. Rei-ao, however, picked up a faint scent wafting from her direction, something hinting at her underlying intentions. With a knowing smile, he replied. "You really are a devoted mother, aren't you? All right, I'll accept." Ding. Your trade request has been accepted. Trade condition, one-time body usage rights. Ding. Confirm the trade? Yuriko's heart skipped at Rei-ao's suggestive smile. Did he see through her hidden feelings? She couldn't deny that this remarkable man who had saved her life had stirred something within her, feelings she hadn't had since her husband's death. Something she had buried long ago. But, she reminded herself, this trade was genuinely for Saya's sake. Ding. Trade initiated. Trade partner, Yuriko Takagi. Trade purpose, to take Saya's place in payment for the trade. Trade condition, one-time body usage rights. Duration, 3 hours. Rei-ao turned toward her, and Yuriko's heart pounded as she saw him fully. Now she understood why Saya had looked so exhausted. "Let's begin our trade," Rei-ao said, motioning her forward. Yuriko hesitated for a moment before stepping toward him, mentally repeating, "I'm doing this for Saya." Not because she was drawn to Rei-ao's strength and youth. Elsewhere, Yukino, who had just mustered the courage to crush an undead skull under Sako's supervision, froze when a notification appeared unexpectedly in the chat group. The new trade announcement sparked a lively discussion. Stella, wait, another trade? Akam, no, look closely. It's a different person. Frieren, the first trade was with Saya Takagi, but this one is with Yuriko Takagi. The names are different. Stella, oh, you're right. Stella, but what does it mean by trade payment? Shizuka, it says body usage rights. Stella, wait. Someone else can pay it for her? Megumi Kato, they have the same last name. They might be sisters. Megumi Kato couldn't help but think of her own sister and the way Rei-ao sometimes looked at her, so her mind immediately went to this possibility. But as it turned out, reality often exceeds imagination. Sako, no, Yuriko Takagi is Saya's mother. Stella, what? My Sakurajima? Megumi Kato. Suai, wow. Is that even possible? Rei Miyamoto, well, it might just be Yuriko's choice. Rei tried to offer some context. She had been standing near the door, listening, and it was clear that the voice coming from inside wasn't Saya's. Yukino's deep gaze turned to Sako. And? You have no opinion about this? Sako remained completely calm. None. If it makes Rei-ao happy, that's enough. And besides, I'm sure Yuriko made this choice herself. Yukino considered this. Yes, the only person who could initiate the trade was Yuriko herself. Yet the whole thing still shook her worldview. Just when she thought Rei-ao and the others had already crossed a line, it seemed they were only venturing further down an uncharted path. Rei-ao, talking about me? Stella, and you dare to pop up after doing something so shameless? Rei-ao, haha, why wouldn't I? I haven't done anything against my principles. Stella, you. Stella wanted to say something more, but the words escaped her. Frieren, Rei-ao, can humans really do things like this? Frieren knew her fellow elves would never behave this way. Shizuka, most people probably wouldn't. I am Yamagawa, but Rei-ao isn't just anyone. Ayam spoke up to defend Rei-ao with fierce loyalty. Kajiki and Yukina exchanged glances, giving her a thumbs up in support. In fact, Ayam's face was bright red as she made this declaration, but there was a certain reason she could say it so readily. Her own mother was no longer with her, so she couldn't entirely understand the predicament that Saya now found herself in. My Sakurajima, Rei-ao, are you? Rei-ao, just what you're thinking. Want to watch? Yuriko says she doesn't mind. Stella, no way. Megumi Kato, no, that won't be necessary. Toru, humans sure are complicated. My Sakurajima, sigh. Mai let out a deep sigh. She hadn't actually intended to ask about Sai and Yuriko Takagi. She was more concerned about what might happen if Rei-ao ever met her own mother. If it ever came to that, what would she do? I need to do everything I can to prevent it. Mai thought with determination. As for what was happening with Sai and Yuriko, she didn't want to interfere. It was a trade between consenting parties, after all. But as for something that hadn't happened yet, she'd do everything possible to keep it that way. And if, in the end, she couldn't stop it, well, then maybe she'd have to preemptively distract him. Or perhaps take charge herself to ensure he'd have no thoughts for anyone else. It would be her own way of solving the problem. Rei-ao, by the way, I'm in an extended trade session, so can you get in touch with Raphael or Vane yet? They should put Yukino's sister to sleep to keep things from getting messy. Rei-ao, Yukino shida, you don't mind, right? Yukino shida. No. And? Thank you. My Sakurajima, got it, I'll go now. Frieren, 6 hours. Rei-ao, are you sure you can manage? Rei-ao, hey, who do you think I am? In Kasamijoka's apartment. Now that she had some free time due to the school closure, Utaha had been looking to the chat group for some creative inspiration. The concept of other worlds always sparked new ideas. Fresh from the cold shower, she sat on her sofa, taking small sips of water to calm her nerves. After that incident at school, she had been on edge. And now, with someone dead in broad daylight, the fact that Tomoyaki's death had been officially classified as an accident only deepened her unease. It was disturbing to think that even the truth behind a person's death could be concealed. Lost in thought, she glanced at the chat. Ugh. She choked on her water, almost spitting it out. Stunned, she processed what she was reading. Rei-ao. Is he really that bold? Not only was he causing chaos, but he was even offering to live stream it. The sheer audacity. The chat group's casual reaction added another layer of shock. Is there something wrong with me? Utaha thought, feeling more out of place than ever. And 6 hours. Is that really okay? As soon as she had that thought, her phone buzzed with a message from her editor, Sanoko Machida. Sanoko Machida, it's true. 6 hours is nothing for Rei-ao. Seize this chance, Utaha. Let's dive into a new world of inspiration together. Utaha Kasamijoka. She sent back an ellipsis, mirroring her speechless thoughts. Her once respectable editor had turned into an enabler. And how did Sanoko know exactly what she was thinking? Rei-ao chuckled. His question was a bit of a test, and he was pleased to see the group's overall acceptance. It seemed his occasional live streams had effectively lowered their threshold for shock. As for Yuriko, who thought she was merely helping Saya, he leaned close to her ear, his voice low. Yuriko, I have a question. Is Saya truly your daughter? Yuriko didn't answer, only looked away, avoiding his gaze. Rei-ao already had his answer. In breaking through a boundary that shouldn't have existed, he confirmed his suspicions. He didn't know the details, but he didn't need to. All that mattered was fulfilling his own desires. Yuriko, I haven't done anything yet. Yuriko's body froze. He hadn't moved? So this reaction was her own? Hey, you're clearly saying one thing and feeling another, Rei-ao chuckled. Now, let me teach you how to align the two. And make you mine. This time, it was Rei-ao's turn. With a confident smile, he was ready to guide Yuriko, much as he had with others like Kirano Shinji and Sanoko Machida. Chapter 105, Getting Powerful Humans. In the cave, Toru's eyes gleamed with curiosity. The humans she observed through the chat group were quite unlike the ones she knew in her own world. And then, there was the man who had saved her. What are humans like in this world? She wondered. The people here were so weak, they couldn't even use magic. They built strange, towering, box-shaped structures and created things from metal that her world had never seen. Her curiosity grew. A blue magic circle appeared beneath her dragon form, lifting her into the air. As it passed through her, her body began to shrink. The next moment, she transformed into a human. A striking woman with bare skin and enchanting curves, though her head still bore horns, and a massive green tail extended from her back. I need clothing. Recalling the clothes she'd seen in some of the chat group pictures, she selected something she liked. Another spell, and a black and white outfit appeared on her. Let's go see the human world. With a swift motion, Toru flew out of the cave in her human form, heading for the city. Hours passed. For some, like Rao and Yuriko, the time felt quick. For others, it seemed to drag on. By evening, Rao felt as though the time had flown by. He was more than satisfied, yet there was still much he could have enjoyed. The time had primarily been spent with Yuriko Takagi. He'd given Saya quite the reprieve by taking on Yuriko instead. But for Yukino, the wait felt endless. The thought of what Rao was doing left her restless and uneasy. Only when it was finally over did she feel a sense of relief. As Rao exited the room, he was met by Rei Miyamoto, Shizuka Marikawa, and little Alice, who was peeking out shyly from behind them. They were all well aware of what Rao had been up to, though their reactions varied. Rei looked somewhat disappointed she hadn't been able to join. Shizuka, ever the carefree one, had even left her shirt partially unbuttoned. And Alice, clearly embarrassed, sneaked glances at Rao. Yukino and Sakobujujima arrived a moment later, with Yukino's knitted brow immediately catching Rao's attention. You seem to have been waiting anxiously. Yukino remained silent. It wasn't so much that she had been waiting impatiently. Rather, the idea of what he had been doing left her feeling as if she'd been crawling with ants. Without further comment, she asked directly. Are we going back now? If you're in a hurry, then yes, let's go back. Rao's stay had reached its limit. Sako, Rei, I'm leaving Sai and Yuriko in your hands, he said. Sako, sensing his underlying meaning, smiled and nodded. Understood. In a flash, Rao and Yukino vanished. Sako turned to Rei. Rei, come with me. Oh, okay, Rei replied, following her into the room. The familiar disarray and heavy scent were obvious, though this time, it was Saya and Yuriko lying there rather than themselves. Yuriko was peacefully asleep, but Saya's breathing was clearly irregular. Sako grinned. Saya, you're awake. Busted, Saya reluctantly sat up, embarrassed. In truth, she had woken up halfway through, and upon seeing her mother's state, along with the chat notifications, she had pretended to stay asleep to avoid the awkwardness of acknowledging it. She didn't want to embarrass herself. Or her mother. But as she had slept, she had watched everything. It was all because of her. Her lack of strength had led her mother to take her place. Sako spoke meaningfully. Saya, and you too, Yuriko. I think it's safe to say we're all family now, don't you? Huh? Rei looked over, surprised that Rao had, indeed, brought them both fully into the fold. Saya could only smile wryly. I'm basically just his property now. That jerk. Name, Saya Takagi, Level 1, Abilities, Dragon Force, Fire Spirit, Rao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Transformation Cube, Name, Yuriko Takagi, Level 1, Abilities, Dragon Force, Thunder Spirit, Rao's Blessing, Inherent Device, Pure Soul Lance. This was the blessing both she and her mother had received. Saya had watched how Yuriko had been fully conquered by Rao. She never imagined he'd openly discuss her with Yuriko. And even less that her mother would agree. Saya realized her mother had, in essence, sold her for Rao's considerable skill. It was bittersweet. Returning to her apartment, Yukino Shida immediately saw her sister Haruno asleep on the couch. Seeing her older sister, who had come all the way over out of concern, Yukino felt a wave of mixed emotions she couldn't quite describe. After a moment, she gently shook Haruno's shoulder, calling softly. Sister, wake up. Haruno, under the effects of Vignette's sleep spell, was in a deep slumber. It took several moments of Yukino's nudging before she finally stirred, slowly opening her eyes. Still groggy, Haruno sat up abruptly. Yukino. Her mind was still focused on the worry she'd had over Yukino's sudden disappearance. Seeing her sister's concern, warmth filled Yukino's heart. Sister, why are you sleeping here? She asked, her voice calm as usual. You're back, Yukino. Haruno exclaimed, pulling her sister into a tight hug, overwhelmed with relief. In her own mind, Yukino felt a quiet appreciation. Normally, she didn't enjoy this kind of embrace, but this time she allowed it, feeling the genuine care coming from her sister. After a long moment, Haruno released Yukino, regaining her composure as she put on a more serious expression. Where were you before? Yukino sighed inwardly. This familiar mask of Haruno's was what she found difficult to handle. Keeping her expression neutral, Yukino replied calmly. Getting my phone repaired. Your phone. Haruno paused, realizing that must have been why her calls hadn't gone through. It seemed she had worried for nothing. Still, at least Yukino was safe. Haruno rubbed her forehead. I can't believe I fell asleep here. She glanced at the time. 6 hours have passed? Haruno was stunned that she'd slept that long. Her work today was likely a lost cause. She saw numerous missed calls on her phone, all from their mother. Sigh. Haruno sighed deeply, resigned to the stern talk she'd likely face from their mother. But she smiled lightly at Yukino. Oh well. Next time, Yukino, let your sister know, so I don't worry myself sick. Now that everything's alright, I'll be going. Yukino nodded quietly, feeling too awkward to respond harshly to her sister's genuine concern this time. As Haruno walked to the door, Yukino couldn't help but say, "Thank you, sister." Haruno's steps halted, a faint smile appearing on her face as she left. The next morning, a powerful aura suddenly emanated from Rei-ao, startling Mai beside him. Even his large sword slid from his side as he stood there, energy radiating around him. "Rei-ao, what's going on?" Mai asked, both tired and bewildered. Rei-ao, looking down at his hands, stayed silent. He hadn't intentionally released this energy. His body was simply overflowing with newfound power. He realized what it meant, he'd leveled up to 46. Guessing the cause, he quickly opened the chat group. "Rei-ao, Shizu Aizawa, are you there?" "Shizu Aizawa, yes, I just woke up." "Good morning, Rei-ao. Did you need something?" "Rei-ao, good morning. I wanted to ask. Did Velzard and Velgrand happen to do anything yesterday?" "Shizu Aizawa, one moment, I'll check with them." "Frieren, did something happen this morning?" "Rei-ao, nothing major, just curious if they gained any strength recently." "Shizu Aizawa, oh, I just heard back." "Shizu Aizawa, yesterday, they apparently took down a disaster-level monster." Just as he thought. Their battle experience had been split with him, leading to his unexpected level increase. A disaster-level monster. Apparently of the demon lore type. If those two continued to hunt at this level, wouldn't his strength just keep skyrocketing? It seemed giving them his blessing was the best choice he'd made yet. And he had no shame about it. After all, it was his wife's success he was benefiting from. He hoped Velzard and Velgrand would continue. And maybe even take down a demon lord, or perhaps something even grander. Chapter 106, Raphael confronting Gabriel. Mufagirasu's gift back at the apartment, Mai quickly noticed something was off. Rei-ao's massive presence seemed to be stirring physically again. Realizing what might come next, she hurriedly began getting out of bed to dress. If she didn't, the consequences could be disastrous. All Mai could hope for was that someone, anyone, would occasionally step in to share the burden. She was truly at her limit. Rei-ao was simply too relentless. Ding dong. The crisp chime of the doorbell rang, and to Mai, it felt like an angel extending a saving hand. Pulling the blanket tighter around her body, she urged. "Someone's at the door. Go see who it is." Rei-ao gave her a peculiar look. Moments ago, she was clinging to him, begging for more, and now she was pushing him away. Ah, women. Still, he understood what Mai feared. After leveling up, not only had his power and abilities grown exponentially, but his physical stamina and needs had also surged dramatically. It wasn't something he could turn off, much like a car in overdrive. Deciding to indulge her, Rei-ao threw on some clothes and went to open the door. Standing there was, indeed, an angel. Literally. Gabriel. But this angel looked utterly disheveled and lifeless. There was none of the divine radiance one would expect. Despite it being just a day since they last met, Gabriel seemed completely drained of energy, her dull, fish-like eyes evidence enough. Rei-ao didn't need to ask, it was obvious she'd spent another night gaming without sleep. Whenever Gabriel showed up, it was usually for one of three reasons: borrowing money, or borrowing money. "How much?" he asked flatly. Gabriel held up one finger. 10,000. "Another 10,000, huh?" Rei-ao crossed his arms. "Gabriel, I feel it's necessary to remind you, you already owe me quite a few tens of thousands, yet you haven't repaid a single cent. So, what do you propose we do about that?" Gabriel shrank back, pulling her head down between her shoulders. She'd spent all her money on microtransactions and had completely lost track of how much she owed. I'll pay you back. I promise." Her assurance was clearly half-hearted. Rei-ao wasn't going to let her off so easily this time. "That's not going to cut it, Gabriel. At this rate, I'll never see my money again. Don't you think I deserve a little interest?" What kind of interest?" Gabriel stammered. "What do you have to offer?" he asked casually. Gabriel thought hard. Apart from a mountain of trash bags in her room, she had nothing. Well, she did have the Horn of Destruction, but there was no way she'd hand that over. Utterly flustered, she could only shake her head. Sigh, Rei-ao feigned disappointment. "If you've got nothing to offer, what am I supposed to do?" He stroked his chin, his gaze slowly sweeping over Gabriel's figure until it stopped at her lips. "How about you give me a kiss?" What? Gabriel's eyes widened in shock. A kiss? Her eyes followed Raoul's gaze, realizing where he was looking. She hadn't misunderstood. This isn't appropriate, is it? A blush spread rapidly across her face, painting her cheeks a vibrant red. Something like this. Shouldn't it be reserved for someone she truly cared about? Even as an angel, she hadn't reached that point yet. After all, not even her older sister had experienced such a thing. Raoul sighed. Well, you need to give me something. Otherwise, I'll just assume you'll never pay me back. Gabriel lowered her head, ashamed. He wasn't wrong. She had no way to repay him anytime soon. But give up gaming? Absolutely not. Resolving to stick to her gaming life, Gabriel shyly raised her head. Can I kiss your cheek instead? Sure. Raoul smiled, agreeing without hesitation. One step at a time, he thought. If it was her cheek this time, her lips would follow next. After that, she might even get acquainted with something bigger. Close your eyes first. Gabriel demanded nervously. All right. Raoul closed his eyes, obliging her request. After confirming he couldn't see, Gabriel gave herself a pep talk. Gabriel, you have to save the world. You can't falter here. Her determination to save the gaming world, her gaming addiction, overcame her embarrassment. She stepped forward, tiptoed. Mwah. The kiss was fleeting, lasting just a second. Raoul opened his eyes, about to say something, but Gabriel had already turned and bolted. She stumbled over her words as she fled. Remember to transfer the money. In a flurry of embarrassment, Gabriel dashed back to her apartment. Door open, door slammed shut. It was a single fluid motion. Raoul chuckled. Hey. Raoul touched his still warm cheek, the smile on his lips refusing to fade. It seemed the next step in his plan to conquer Gabriel could officially begin. Who was it this time? Fearing Raoul would return to the bedroom and continue their activities, quickly got up and stepped out. Raoul closed the door behind him and replied. No one important. It was Gabriel. Let me guess. Borrowing money again? Instinctively blurted out, barely able to hold back a chuckle. She had originally thought angels and demons would be majestic, unapproachable beings. But after spending time with them, their quirks became apparent. Gabriel, a gaming-addicted recluse who was perpetually borrowing money from Raoul. Vignette. Despite being a demon, she was sweet and kind, practically angelic. Even Raoul had jokingly remarked she was more suited to being a seraph. Satania, a self-proclaimed demon queen who was more like a mischievous child. She had declared Raoul her master but remained hilariously naive. Raphael, the one Mai found the hardest to read. Outwardly elegant and ladylike, but something about her serene demeanor always felt slightly off. Gabriel's been spending more on microtransactions lately, Raoul said, shaking his head. Mai frowned. Why do you keep giving her money? If her game keeps encouraging her to spend like this, it's definitely problematic. Why? Raoul's lips curled into a sly grin. Mai, what would you say if I told you I was working on getting you a sweet little angel sister? Mai immediately understood the meaning behind Raoul's mischievous tone and expression. It was all too familiar. With an exaggerated eye roll, she sighed. You're such a scumbag. You're actually using this to seduce an angel? She knew exactly what he was up to. Gabriel was clearly already ensnared in Raoul's web. Just like she had been. How did I end up on this sinking ship with you? Mai groaned dramatically. Sinking ship. Raoul teased, hugging her from behind and inhaling the scent of her hair. I think you're just scared of how much you want me, he murmured, pointing suggestively toward the bedroom. You wouldn't want it to break, would you? Ugh. Mai's cheeks burned bright red as she broke free from his embrace. Can you not talk like that? Seriously. She huffed, glaring at him in embarrassment before storming off to the bathroom. Raoul chuckled as he watched her retreating figure. He knew her well. Beneath the surface, Mai was straightforward and surprisingly easygoing, even if she liked to act otherwise. Back at Gabriel's apartment, things weren't going much better for her. Gab, why's your face so red? The last person Gabriel wanted to see was there to greet her, Raphael. It's nothing. I was just out running. Yeah, running. Running? Raphael's half-lidded eyes gleamed with amusement. From what she'd heard, Gabriel had been out for less than 2 minutes. That didn't exactly sound like a strenuous jog. Gabriel's avoidance of her gaze only made Raphael's suspicions grow stronger. She narrowed her eyes, her tone playful. This smells like a lie. Just then, Gabriel's phone pinged with a notification. Your account has been credited, 10,000 yen. The chime filled the room, punctuating the silence. Raphael raised an eyebrow, smirking. Oh? Since when does running earn you 10,000 yen? The heavenly realm didn't send out living allowances today. So where did Gabriel get that 10,000 yen windfall? Gab, you haven't done anything bad, right? Raphael's sharp tone and slow approach made Gabriel sweat bullets. Rafi, how could I possibly do something bad? Ha ha, ha ha. Her nervous laughter and forced smile couldn't hide her guilt. Seeing that Gabriel still wanted to bluff her way out, Raphael decided it was time to lay her cards on the table. Really? But I distinctly remember seeing your computer the other day. Logged into a game. Gabriel froze, her heart skipping a beat. Uh-oh. She's on to me. Raphael continued. You've been listless in class lately, your halo's dimmed, and you've been holed up in your room. Could it be? You've fallen into the grip of gaming addiction? Staying up all night gaming? I haven't. Gabriel stammered, trying to refute the claim, but Raphael's sharp gaze bore into her. Gabriel, lying is a sin, you know. Should I inform your sister, Gab? Thud. The moment her sister's name was mentioned, Gabriel dropped to her knees in a dramatic doji pose. I was wrong, Rafi. Please don't tell her. Raphael smirked. She knew Gabriel's biggest weakness. Her fear of her sister, Zil. Now, spill it. What exactly have you been up to? Raphael asked, crossing her arms. I've been saving the world through gaming. Gabriel cried, attempting to dress up her addiction as a noble cause. Ha. Let's call it what it is. A full-blown human gaming addiction, Raphael retorted, mercilessly cutting through Gabriel's excuses. Fine, continue. What's that 10,000 yen for, and how did you get it? It's for equipment. To save the world. And I borrowed it from Rao, Gabriel muttered, her voice growing smaller with each word. Raphael didn't buy it for a second. But she was intrigued by the money source. Reflecting on how quickly Gabriel had returned earlier, Raphael realized it must have been a visit to Rao's apartment, conveniently located next door. But Gabriel sensed things might spiral out of control if she let Raphael keep pressing. If the kiss with Rao came to light, she'd never hear the end of it. So she clung to Raphael, tears streaming as she begged. Rafi, please don't tell my sister. Raphael's expression twisted. Not out of pity, but from sheer disgust. Gabriel's tears were dripping onto her leg, and she was fairly certain some of it was snot. Gab, let go of me first, Raphael said, trying to pry her off while pulling her leg away. No. Not unless you promise not to tell my sister. Gabriel's desperation had rendered her shameless. You. Raphael sighed, exasperated. The Gabriel she once knew had truly changed. Fine, I promise I won't tell your sister. Really? Gabriel's face lit up instantly, her tears vanishing as quickly as they'd appeared. Raphael frowned, catching her breath. Don't celebrate just yet, she warned. At this rate, you're bound to fall completely. Fall, huh? Gabriel mused. She raised her hand, summoning her halo. It floated above her head, faintly tinged with black. Raphael scoffed. Gab, you've already fallen. Oh. Gabriel barely reacted. Instead, she plucked the halo off her head, held it in her hand, and blew on it like it was covered in dust. Then, she casually used the hem of her shirt to wipe it clean. In a matter of seconds, the black discoloration disappeared, leaving her halo pure and glowing once more. She placed it back on her head and smiled. All fixed. No more falling. Raphael. Noon. In another part of town, Mufagirasa meticulously checked her shopping bags. Everything should be here, right? The sofa was piled high with snacks, fruits, and various gifts. Why did she buy so much? Simple, to thank Rao for his help last time. Both for saving her and for cleaning her apartment. However, she still felt utterly humiliated from that incident. As a teacher, her dignity had been thoroughly trampled. This time, she was determined to make a better impression. After confirming everything was in order, Muffa steeled herself. All right, time to bring these over. But when she looked down at her trembling, reddened hands, she hesitated. She couldn't lift them. Moments later, things took an unexpected turn. Rao was standing in her living room, staring at the mountain of bags with a bemused expression. So, all of this is meant to be a thank you gift for me? Yes, Muffa replied, her voice barely above a whisper as she stood there like a scolded child. And you want me to carry it all back myself? I'm sorry. I can't lift them anymore. Muffa mumbled, holding out her shaking hands, which were clearly overworked from carrying the bags all the way home. Rao. Chapter 107, Heel Kurum, Iam's trade request regarding Mufagirasa's behavior. Rao couldn't help but remark, alright then, I've never heard of a thank you gift requiring the recipient to carry it themselves. Effortlessly, he lifted the mountain of bags. This scene left Mufagirasa utterly speechless. She personally struggled to carry those items and knew just how heavy they were. But now, he carried them as if they were weightless. Her gaze involuntarily shifted to Rao's arms. Gulp. The sight of his tightly toned muscles left her momentarily mesmerized. No wonder he's so strong. And beneath those clothes, his physique must be incredible. You. Rao's voice snapped her back to reality. Yes. Thinking she'd been caught staring at his muscles, Mifo instinctively stood at attention. Rao raised an eyebrow, a vein nearly popping on his forehead. Why so jumpy? I'm not here to scare you. Oh. Mifo lowered her head in embarrassment and guilt. Garasu-sensei, you haven't had lunch yet, have you? No. Not yet. Then come to my place. Mai and I prepared a feast today. After all, following yesterday's strenuous events, Rao had bought an abundance of fish, shrimp, and meat for a hearty meal, prepared by none other than Mai herself. Huh? Mifo hesitated, curious about who Mai might be. But before she could ask or decline, Rao had already walked off with the bags in hand. All she could do was sigh, her face flushing. This is so humiliating. Not only did I make him carry his own thank you gifts, but now, as a teacher, I'm heading to a student's home. For food. Humiliation aside, Mifo's body moved of its own accord, following him. What choice did she have? She couldn't cook, and compared to takeout, a home-cooked meal was far more appealing. Click hearing movement in the living room, Mai, wearing an apron, peeked out of the kitchen. Her gaze met Mifo's, and both froze. Mifo Garasu-sensei? Mai Sakurajima-san? What a coincidence. Not only was Mifo the homeroom teacher for Class 3-1, but she also taught Classes 3-2 and 3-5. Rao smiled. Great, no need for introductions. Eh? Though surprised at Mifo's visit, Mai was quick to recover. After all, she'd seen far wilder things in her time with Rao. Returning to the kitchen, she focused on finishing the dishes and setting the table. At the dining table, the three sat in silence. Finally, Rao broke the ice. Garasu-sensei, try some of the food. Mai's cooking is quite good. But Mifo, still deep in thought, found it hard to muster an appetite. Her curiosity got the better of her. Rao, Mai, are you two family? Mai hesitated, unsure how to respond, and instinctively glanced at Rao. Without missing a beat, he replied, yes, we're family. Hearing this, Mai's lips curled into a soft, happy smile. I thought so. Are you siblings? Mifo pressed further, still oblivious to the underlying truth. Rao decided to clarify. Have you considered that we might be cohabiting lovers instead? What? Mifo thought she must have misheard. She blinked a few times, trying to process his words. But Rao's sincere expression left no room for doubt. A wave of self-pity washed over Mifo. Her students were already in relationships and even living together, while she remained a lonely single woman. With a wistful look, she glanced between the two before deciding to drown her sorrows in food. At least the food's delicious. Between mouthfuls, Mifo couldn't resist slipping into teacher mode. Love is fine, but don't neglect your studies. Especially you, Rao, with your skyrocketing grades. She started a small lecture, her tone carrying the same nagging authority of a dedicated teacher. Rao and Mai exchanged a look but refrained from interrupting. Mai couldn't help but wonder, did I not make the food tasty enough to shut her up? The night raid's secret base. Another emergency meeting was underway. Boss, what's the situation with headquarters? Lubbock was visibly excited. He'd caught wind of some major news. Something big was coming. Najenda, seated at the head of the table, frowned deeply. Headquarters has begun mobilizing forces in an attempt to launch a full-scale attack on the Empire. A full-scale? Mine gasped in disbelief. How is that even possible? Where would the Revolutionary Army even get that many people? It's true. The Revolutionary Army doesn't have that kind of manpower, Brand interjected, shaking his head. To attack the entire Empire, they'd need at least 1 million soldiers. And even that might not be enough for a place as vast as the Empire, Leon added with a wry tone. Headquarters is getting ahead of itself. Akom's eyes narrowed as she stared at Najenda. Boss, you're not telling us everything, are you? Najenda sighed heavily, her silence confirming Akom's suspicion. There's something I haven't told you, she admitted. What else is there? Mine asked, her tone skeptical. Scanning the room, Najenda spoke slowly and deliberately. You're right. The manpower shortage is a serious issue. But headquarters has found a temporary solution. Huh? A temporary solution? Mine asked, completely baffled. Her words made Brand furrow his brow. Boss, you're not about to say what I think you are. Are you? Najenda nodded solemnly. Yes. They've decided to enlist the help of the tribes. The tribes? Everyone reacted in shock. The tribes were infamous, their notoriety known far and wide. If the Empire oppressed its people through its ruling class, the tribes were far more barbaric. Their relentless invasions of the Empire brought nothing but destruction. Any regions they overran were left in ashes. Civilians were either slaughtered or enslaved. They showed no mercy, treating all equally as prey to burn, kill, and pillage. The idea of allying with them was unthinkable. Mine was the first to object, slamming her hands on the table as she stood. This is insane. Working with the tribes is just inviting disaster. Najun sighed, sharing their unease. Our enemy is as teeth, she said. You all saw what happened when she fought Rao. Regular forces are useless against her. Leon crossed her arms, considering the situation. Azteeth's power is terrifying. If we use the tribes as cannon fodder. Mine glared at her furiously. They're uncontrollable. You think they'll be our pawns, but what's stopping them from turning on us and using us as cannon fodder? And even if we somehow take the Empire, what's to stop them from attacking us afterward? The room fell silent, tension rising. Sounds like you're all worried about this plan. A new voice broke into the conversation. Who's there? Leon's sharp gaze snapped toward the source of the voice. A woman with long pink hair and headphones stood at the entrance. Who are you? Lubbock didn't hesitate. Using his Tegu, cross-tail, he quickly immobilized the intruder with threads. The woman raised her hands in surrender. Whoa, I'm on your side, she said with a sheepish grin. Najunda raised her hand, signaling everyone to stand down. Calm down. She's one of ours. Headquarters sent her to assist us. One of ours. In the Night Raid's hideout, another tense situation unfolded. Through a brief introduction, the group learned the woman's identity. Her name was Chelsea, an assassin adept at infiltration and disguise, wielding the Tegu Gaia Foundation. Despite her cheerful demeanor, the group remained cautious around the newcomer. As they debated whether to continue their discussion about the Revolutionary Army's alliance with the tribes, the situation escalated. Sheil rushed in, breathless. Something's wrong with Kurum. Kurum. Akom's eyes widened in alarm. Like a whirlwind, she bolted from the room, heading toward Kurum's location. The rest of the group turned to Najunda for guidance. Lubbock, Bullet, head to the Imperial capital again, she instructed. We need more intelligence before launching any offensive. We can't afford mistakes. Yes, boss. Najunda then led the others to check on Kurum. Chelsea, observing from the back, mused aloud. Night Raid seems to panic easily. Curious, she decided to follow them. After all, she didn't remember anyone named Kurum in the Night Raid's roster. Only Akom. By the time Akom reached the room, she found Kurum writhing in agony, her body convulsing uncontrollably. Kurum. Rushing to her sister's side, Akom knelt beside her, her usual calm facade replaced by visible distress. What's wrong? Tell me. Najunda, who entered shortly after, examined Kurum briefly and explained. This is the side effect of the Empire's drug. What drug? Akom asked, her voice sharp. The Empire likely injected her with a substance designed to forcibly enhance her abilities, Najunda replied grimly. It makes her stronger, yes, and extremely hard to kill unless you destroy her heart or decapitate her. But the cost is steep. It creates a dangerous dependency. If she doesn't take the drug regularly, it will lead to her death. Akom clenched her fists. The sound of Kurum's agonized cries filled the room, intensifying Akom's fury. Her crimson eyes seemed to glow with bloodlust. Akom. Najunda grabbed her arm as she began to storm out. You're not thinking of going to the capital for the drug, are you? I am. Even if you get it, she doesn't have much time left. The damage to her body is irreversible, Najunda warned. Even with the drug, she won't survive for long. Why? Why does it have to be like this? Sheil murmured, her face clouded with sadness. Having spent time guarding Kurum, Sheil had seen glimpses of a more innocent side to her. She'd hoped Akom and Kurum might reconcile one day. But now... Akom, maybe you should ask Rao for help, Mine suddenly suggested. Akom's eyes lit up with realization. She remembered the last thing Rao had said before he left. Kurum won't have much time left. Elsewhere, Rao had just finished lunch with Sakura Jimamai and Kirasimifo when he noticed the notification in the chat. Akom, Rao, my sister Kurum is dying from the side effects of the Empire's drug. Do you have a way to save her? Akom, you knew this would happen. You said so before you left. Please, help her. Rao's gaze sharpened as he read the messages. He'd anticipated this moment and knew he now had the strength to save Kurum. Rao, yes. A single word was enough to rekindle Akom's hope. A notification followed. Ding. Akom has initiated a trade request. Heal Kurum's body. Ding. Please set trade conditions. Without hesitation, Akom finalized the trade. Ding. Trade accepted. Trade object. Akom. Request. Heal Kurum's body. Condition. One-time body usage rights. Duration, 3 hours. Mai had been keeping an eye on the chat and now turned her attention to Rao. Are you heading out? She asked. Rao nodded reassuringly. I'll be back soon. Take care of Garasu-sensei while I'm gone. Mai gave a slight nod. Got it. Stay safe. Garasu-mifu, still lounging on the sofa, glanced at Rao with curiosity. Is something wrong? She asked, noticing his determined expression. A friend needs help, he explained briefly. With that, he stepped out the door and vanished into thin air. Chapter 108, A Trade for Toppling the Empire? Great, Kirum can still be saved. Sheila exclaimed in relief upon seeing Rao's response. Akom's tense expression softened slightly, but Chelsea, who was unaware of the full context, looked confused. You're not worried about her? Chelsea asked, glancing at Kirum, who was writhing in agony, her face contorted in pain. Receiving a subtle signal from Najenda, Leon placed a hand on Chelsea's shoulder. Chelsea, right? There's nothing more for us to do here. Why don't you come with me to scout the area around the base? The implication was clear. Chelsea realized she hadn't turned the team's full trust yet, and Kirum's situation likely involved classified information. Although her curiosity was piqued, Chelsea wisely chose not to pry and followed Leon out of the room. The moment Chelsea stepped out, Rao appeared beside Akom. He took one glance at Kirum and assessed her condition. Looks like I arrived just in time, he remarked calmly. Rao, please save Kirum. Akom grasped his arm tightly, her usually cold eyes brimming with desperate pleading. The trade is to save her. I'll naturally fulfill my end of the deal. Don't worry. Rao approached Kirum and placed his hand on her arm. Green and golden particles of light began to shimmer around her, creating a dreamlike atmosphere. The others watched in awe, holding their breaths as if even the slightest sound might disrupt the process. In truth, they were overthinking. Rao was merely using the simplest manipulation of wood and light elements to repair Kirum's body and organs. What was effortless for him yielded dramatic results. The glowing particles fused into Kirum's body, and her painful cries ceased. Her convulsions stopped entirely, and the pallor of her skin gave way to a healthy complexion. Moments later, Rao withdrew his hand. Akom, her voice tinged with urgency, asked. How is she? As you can see, Rao replied, stepping aside. Her condition is excellent. Her body's strong, and she's completely free from the drug's side effects. Then why hasn't she woken up? Mine asked skeptically. Rao glanced at her as though she were an idiot. Isn't it possible that she's simply exhausted and fell asleep? Akom knelt down and checked Kirum's breathing. Her breathing is steady. She's just sleeping. Mine felt embarrassed for not thinking of that. She pouted, trying to defend herself. I just didn't realize it right away. Rao chuckled, which only deepened Mine's frustration. You. Before she could retort, Najenda intervened. Mine, stop with the pointless arguments. Seeing the leader step in, Mine had no choice but to begrudgingly quiet down. Najenda then turned to Rao, her expression a mix of curiosity and admiration for his miraculous abilities. Rao, could I trouble you for a moment? It's regarding some matters between the Empire and the Revolutionary Army? Akom looked puzzled. She was well aware that the payment for the trade involved her, but if Najenda had a request, she could wait. However, Najenda clarified. It won't take long, and Akom, you might want to freshen up before the next part. Sheila chimed in. Akom, you can use the hot spring nearby to relax. Hot spring? Rao's eyes lit up at the mention. An idea immediately formed in his mind. He turned to Akom. Wait for me in the hot spring? Mine's face was full of disbelief. You're not planning to. You have a problem with that? Rao asked, raising an eyebrow. No, Mine grumbled, shrinking back. But the thought of the women's hot spring being polluted left her feeling exasperated. Shall we go outside to talk? Najenda suggested. Lead the way, Rao agreed, following her out. Outside the night raid base, Rao and Najenda stood face to face under the shade of a large tree. You want to discuss the Empire, don't you? Rao preemptively guessed her intentions. To his surprise, Najenda first nodded, then shook her head. What does that mean? It's not entirely about the Empire, Najenda explained, her single eye fixed on him. The Revolutionary Army is planning a full-scale attack on the Empire. I want to hear your thoughts as both a powerful individual and an outsider. She then laid bare the Revolutionary Army's entire strategy. Rao raised an eyebrow. You sure trust me a lot. Najenda shook her head slightly. It's not trust. It's just that someone of your caliber wouldn't concern yourself with the Empire. Fair enough, Rao said, shrugging. Indeed, the small empire held no interest for him. Forget his current strength. He had two incredibly powerful wives backing him. With that kind of support, Conquering this planet was nothing but child's play. Since you want my opinion, I'll be blunt. Rao's playful demeanor gave way to seriousness. First, with your current forces, you can't defeat Asdith or the Empire. Without Dotsumi and his final explosive evolution, the chances of toppling the Empire were almost zero. Against Asdith and the Supreme Degu, sheer numbers were meaningless. Second, allying with foreign invaders is a bad move. Rao scoffed at the Revolutionary Army's desperation. Such alliances would inevitably lead to conceding territory for temporary peace. Najanda's expression tightened as Rao pointed out the flaws in their plan. She had once believed that with enough manpower, the Revolutionary Army could have a chance against Asdith. But after witnessing Asdith's battle with Rao, she realized how much she had underestimated the Ice Queen. Even she now doubted the revolution's chances of success. The higher-ups are drunk on the news of General Do's death, Najanda admitted. Anything else you want to ask? Rao asked, cutting straight to the point. Najanda hesitated for a moment before voicing her deepest concern. What kind of price would it take for you to help us overthrow the Empire? Rao wasn't surprised by the question. Unfortunately for you, offering all the women in the night raid wouldn't be enough. Excluding the men, of course. I'm not interested in them. The blunt rejection left Najanda in a bind. She knew that her team members, Shiel, Mine, Leon, and the others, might be willing to sacrifice themselves for peace. But even that felt insignificant compared to the task of toppling the vast empire. And Rao wasn't wrong. He could have any woman in the empire. Why would he settle for such a small price? However, Rao said, his tone shifting. There's a way to change my mind. What is it? Najanda asked, her intrigue piqued. Rao raised a single finger. First, I want all the women of Night Raid to become mine. Najanda had expected that condition. Second, he continued. The Empire's rulers, the Revolutionary Army, and the foreign invaders will all be wiped out. I will become the new emperor. His lips curled into a playful smile. What do you think? Najanda froze, stunned by the audacious proposal. She had never imagined that Rao would want to become the emperor himself. Rao, on the other hand, had only just come up with the idea. It wasn't out of ambition, but the notion of leaving the empire to the Revolutionary Army after toppling it didn't sit well with him. Who were they to inherit the fruits of his labor? Rao, your conditions surprise me, Najanda admitted, still processing his words. You're not planning to stay in this world forever, are you? Of course not, Rao replied without hesitation. I just want to experience what it's like to be emperor. Managing a country doesn't interest me. He added with a smirk. I'll leave the empire in someone else's hands. Maybe Asdith. Najanda's single eye widened in alarm. Asdith managing the empire? That was the last thing she wanted. Or, Rao continued. If Night Raid becomes mine, I wouldn't mind letting you handle it. Najanda couldn't answer. Rao's conditions were clear, total domination and complete erasure of the current factions. I'm sorry, but I'll need time to consider this, she finally said. Take your time, Rao said with a shrug. If you agree, just initiate the trade. With that, he turned to leave. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go collect my payment. Najanda didn't try to stop him. In the misty waters of the hot spring, Akam sat quietly, waiting. You've got quite a spacious spring here, Rao's voice broke the silence. Akam turned to see him approaching, his confidence on full display. With a splash, Rao entered the water and pulled Akam into his arms. Their skin pressed together, and the rising heat was unmistakable. You seem a little shy today, Rao remarked, surprised. I'm not, Akam muttered, turning her gaze away. Humphrey, lying isn't good, he said, his fingers brushing against a sensitive spot. Akam shivered, her body betraying her composed demeanor. Her eyes met Rao's, glistening like dew. Thank you for saving Kuram. If you're thankful, then give me what I'm owed, Rao replied with a smirk. She nodded earnestly. Of course. I'll make sure to properly repay the trade. Chapter 109, Hot Spring. Half an hour later. Kuram woke from her slumber. Her head was neither dizzy nor spinning. Her body felt no pain. It was as if the excruciating pain caused by the Empire's body-strengthening drug, etched deep in her memory, was merely an illusion. The kind of pain that felt like her body was being torn apart had been too real to fake. You're awake. A gentle voice sounded from beside her. She looked toward the source. It was the woman with purple hair, the one who always took the initiative to talk to her. Shiel. Even Kuram, reserved as she was, regarded Shiel as a very kind person. A warm, elder sister figure. What happened to me? Kuram looked at her own hands, her brows furrowed in confusion. Her body felt light, her mind clear. Since being injected with the enhancement drugs, she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this way. Shield's expression revealed a trace of helplessness, but she patiently explained. Not long ago, your body began to fail due to withdrawal from the drugs. You were on the verge of death. Kurom recalled the painful memories from just before. She understood the drugs. They had made her stronger, but they had also taken a heavy toll on her body. It was the price she had to pay to gain the strength needed to kill her sister. She had long known how it would end for her. And yet, she seemed to have survived. It was Akam who saved you. Mine entered the room with a snort. She had no intention of being friendly toward Kurom, the sister Akam cherished so dearly. Sister? Kurom's gaze wavered. Where is she? Shiel sighed and answered helplessly. She made a deal with Rao. The price was. Her words trailed off. She couldn't bring herself to say what that price had been. But Kurom already understood. She had seen the transaction details in the chat group. What she couldn't understand was, why? Why would her sister, whom she intended to kill, use her own body to save her? Kurom, the truth is, Akam loves you very much. When your body started to fail, she was the one who was most worried. She'll sincerely hope the sisters could reconcile. Hearing this, Kurom's eyes, which had been dull, shimmered with emotion. Where is she? She's by the hot springs. As soon as Shiel gave her the location, Kurom suddenly got out of bed and headed for the door. Kurom, where are you going? To find my sister. Eh? Before Mine could stop her, Kurom had already run off. In the chat group. Rao, everyone, image, Rao, take a look at this. Aizawa Shizu, it's a pool of water. The image showed the misty water surface. Frieren, it's steaming. Could it be a hot spring? Taru, huh? Isn't it just a hot water pit? Sakobujujima, hot springs are relaxing and soothing. Stella, huh? There's a hot spring? Ugh, ever since I came to Hagon Academy, I haven't soaked in one. Ayamagawa, me neither. There was no way to bathe in a hot spring on the Iron Fortress. My Sakurajima, why are you suddenly sending a picture of a hot spring? Megami Kato, yeah, Rao-kun, have you already healed Akam's sister? Rao, yes, she's unconscious at the moment. Yukino Shida, then why are you suddenly posting about a hot spring? Rao, oh, nothing. I was just wondering if anyone wanted to take a soak in the hot spring. There's still time. Ding, you have sent a cross-dimensional travel invitation to all members of the chat group? The Night Trade members aware of the situation were stunned. Now. A hot spring. That means. Mine and Shiel exchanged glances. Ah. As they had expected, a scream erupted from the hot spring area. A moment later. The chaos subsided. In the spacious hot spring area, an opaque barrier of light appeared. On one side was the source of the commotion, including Akam, Kajika, Suai, Kurano, and the key figure, Rao. On the other side, there were only 3 people, Frieren, who lounged lazily by the edge of the hot spring, Stella, whose flushed face was submerged in the water as she blew bubbles. What the heck? Stella's face turned bright red with anger. The 3 of them had simply accepted an invitation to relax in a hot spring. Stella had only wanted to enjoy a peaceful soak, but the moment she arrived, she saw Akam being playfully handled by Rao like a wriggling dragon. The scene was far more shocking than watching a live broadcast in the chat group. And to make it even more ridiculous, the 3 companions who had come with her, Kajika, Suai, and Kurano, had somehow joined Rao in his dragon-taming war and even divided the hot spring with a barrier of light. But the barrier only obscured vision. It didn't block sound or drifting objects. Even while soaking in the hot spring, Stella could hear splashing water and the unmistakable sounds of waves. Not to mention the occasional, melodious cries from the other side. Stella now wanted nothing more than to leave. The longer she stayed, the closer she felt to exploding. Unfortunately, they couldn't return unless Rao sent them back. What she had expected to be a relaxing soak had turned into this mess. Bloop, bloop. As she blew embarrassed bubbles, Stella suddenly noticed something odd drifting toward her in the water. When it touched her lips, she immediately realized what it was. Wah! She stood up in shock, panicking. Frieren opened her eyes slightly and glanced over, then said lazily. Don't worry. I can sense that whatever Rao is producing is very pure, and it even contains energy that can strengthen an ordinary person's body. Huh? Stella froze. That thing could strengthen the body? Did they think she was an idiot? Nearby, Kurano Shinji, who had been intently eavesdropping on the activity from the other side, brightened at the comment. She reached out to touch the floating substance in the water. She felt warmth radiating through her body upon contact. It really does seem effective. Stella watched this unfold, her mind reeling. Could this really Strengthen the body? Stella, Rao. You pervert. Why are you so twisted? My Sakurajima, what happened? Stella, ask him. Rao, I just invited you to soak in a hot spring, didn't I? Stella, huh? So soaking in a hot spring involves you and Akam doing that? And Suai too? Suai, I didn't do anything. Not yet, anyway, Megami Kato. In the hot spring. Taru, what are you talking about? I don't get it. Yamagawa, maybe it was just an accident. Stella, accident? He's doing this on purpose. Rao, I didn't force you to soak in the hot spring. You could leave like Asdeath did. Frieren, he has a point. Stella? Frieren, don't be so hung up on this. I don't mind. After all, I'm not human. Sakobujujima, it's a bit of a shame I didn't choose to come earlier. Yamagawa, I feel the same way. Stella, are you all insane? If more people show up, the hot spring will be completely polluted. Frieren, it won't be. I can sense that Rao is constantly using his power to purify any impurities. Rao, sharp observation. Frieren, actually, I find your power intriguing. Could I study it sometime? Rao, next time. I need to focus now. Frieren, pity. Next time, then. Stella. Stella stared in disbelief at the calm and composed Frieren. Seriously? How could they carry on such a relaxed conversation at a time like this? Sigh. If only it were just Rao and me here. Kurano Shingoji listened to the commotion, her expression wistful. Even though her feelings for Rao were deep and immediate, she still longed for a private moment to confess to him. Stella felt like losing her mind. They were beyond saving. Even the chat group was no help. Not a single person was criticizing this laziness. Some were even making excuses for Rao's behavior. What she didn't know was that most of the group was already used to this. Either they were Rao's allies, like Siko and Iam, or they genuinely didn't care, like Taru and Aizawa Shizu. Some simply ignored it, such as Yukino Shida. And then there were those who couldn't voice their complaints, like Utaha Kasumijoka and Yumiko Miura, silently fuming in the background. The water rippled and splashed around her. Stella quietly sank back into the water, trying to calm the strange sensations in her body by shutting off her mind. Outside the hot spring, Kuram, running at full speed, suddenly came face to face with Asdeath, who was dressed in her military uniform. Asdeath understood Rao's combat power, just as she understood her own. With a few people present, even adding herself, there wasn't enough time to fight freely or thoroughly. Her purpose for coming here was merely to test the cross-dimensional travel function and to observe night trade. The group that had been causing the Empire so much trouble. This so-called secret base. How flimsy and weak. In her eyes, it was as fragile as a bubble. The sharp clicks of her high heels echoed as she walked. She stopped suddenly. Because she saw Kuram. And behind Kuram appeared Najunda and her 5 companions. Asdeath. The moment Najunda spotted her, her pupils contracted sharply. When she saw Rao's cross-dimensional invitation earlier, she had already felt a foreboding sense of dread. And now, her worst fears had come true. Hearing that name, mine and the others immediately entered combat readiness, their expressions tense and wary. Just by standing there, Asdeath exerted an overwhelming pressure on everyone present. Chapter 110, Rao the Plumber. Asdeath's cold gaze first swept over Kuram, as if she vaguely remembered her. I've seen you at the Imperial War Council, Kuram. The Empire's traitor. Kuram's eyes widened in shock, as if she had just heard something unbelievable. Traitor? Even mine looked confused. Isn't Kuram our prisoner? How did she become a traitor? After all, Kuram had never faltered in her loyalty to the Empire, not even under the persuasion of her own sister, Akam. Leon, glaring at Asdeath, impatiently interjected. Do we even need to guess? The Empire must have abandoned her. That's just how the Empire worked. It wasn't hard to figure out what might have happened. They could have easily fabricated some charges. Like assassinating a noble. And branded Kuram a criminal. Mine thought about it for a moment and began to feel pity for Kuram. Loyal to the end, yet still betrayed and hunted by the very empire she served. Enough talk. Focus on how to deal with her, Leon growled. After all, Asdeath was their most dangerous enemy. The Revolution Army's greatest threat. Asdeath, however, remained entirely unfazed. Her expression was as calm as ever, as though she didn't even consider the people before her as enemies. Although I'd very much like to fight you, to crush you all underfoot like insects, she began, her voice as cold as her aura. To her, the weak were no different from bugs. Not even worthy of her full attention. Survival of the fittest. But his orders are absolute. I won't kill you. A faint smirk tugged at the corners of her lips as a chilling wave of cold air emanated from her. However, if you wish to challenge me, I'm more than happy to oblige. Ah. The group froze, suddenly remembering the situation. Her master now was none other than Rayao. Chelsea, still disguised and watching from the sidelines, was utterly baffled. As a killer and intelligence agent, she was well aware of Asdith's reputation. The strongest general of the Empire. But what was the Empire's most powerful general doing in the night raid space? The others looked to Najenda, silently asking for direction. Najenda locked eyes with the dangerously calm Asdith before sighing deeply and giving the order. Stand down. Leon and the others, though hesitant, followed the command. Najenda then turned her attention back to Asdith and asked, "What do you want?" "Hey." Asdith chuckled darkly, her cold demeanor never wavering. "Najenda, my defeated foe. Let me see how much you've grown. I'm curious. What kind of leader has the head of the night raid become?" The battle maniac was true to her nature. Aside from her loyalty to Rayao, her few remaining joys in life came from fighting, killing, and conquering. And so, Asdith and Najenda squared off in combat outside the base. Meanwhile, Rayao was locked in a very different kind of battle in the hot spring. Elsewhere Stella was locked in a battle of her own. One within her mind. Kurano Shinji, on the other hand, had inadvertently begun her own private conflict. And Frieren? The elf quietly observed the humans, alternately fascinated by their copulation and self-soothing behaviors. Time passed, and the 3-hour duration was nearly over. A group of people emerged from the hot spring, their faces flushed as if they'd stayed in too long. Several walked unsteadily, leaning on Rayao for support. Stella kept her head down the entire time, refusing to even glance in Rayao's direction. Her mind was filled with echoes of the earlier sounds of ecstasy. Kurano Shinji had returned to her usual cold demeanor, though only because she was now in her enlightened mode. Frieren stretched her arms lazily, looking thoroughly content. The hot spring was so relaxing. "I wish I could bathe like that every day when I return." Rayao gave her a sidelong glance. "Every day? Are you planning to stop hunting demons?" "In that case, I'll schedule the hot spring after hunting demons." As they conversed, the group arrived at Night Raid's base hall. Inside, a group of people had been waiting for them. "Big sister." Kurom dashed toward a fatigued Akam like a gust of wind. As the first dragon tamer, Akam had borne the brunt of Rayao's attention and was clearly worn out. "Kurom." Seeing that Kurom was safe and sound, Akam finally let go of the last lingering tension in her heart. Standing before Akam, Kurom stared at her for a long moment. She didn't offer excessive words of concern. Instead, she quietly said, "I'll repay the debt I owe you." "What if Akam asks for the candy in your snack pouch?" Rayao's sudden question broke the solemn mood. "No way." Kurom instinctively shielded the snack pouch at her waist. "That was non-negotiable." "Haha." Rayao chuckled, then turned to Asdith. "It's time to go." He glanced at Najenda, who was visibly disheveled, and sighed. "Looks like you couldn't resist, huh?" "Just a scratch," Asdith replied dismissively, not even sparing Najenda a glance. Not because of any particular grudge, but because Najenda's current strength wasn't worth her attention. Rayao shrugged. He could tell Asdith had shown considerable restraint. "Well then, everyone, until next time. I look forward to your trades." With a slight smile, Rayao and the others who had traveled with him disappeared before everyone's eyes. Chelsea was utterly dumbfounded. First, General Asdith had peacefully coexisted with Night Raid, without killing a single person. Second, there was this strange man and a group of women who seemed to have come out of nowhere. Third, they all vanished in an instant, like an illusion. And finally, "What is this chat group you're all talking about?" As Chelsea voiced her confusion, every gaze in the room turned to her. Mafagirasu had been waiting at Rayao's house to thank him properly, but he still hadn't returned. "Mai-san, where exactly has Rayao-kun gone?" she asked. Mai's expression grew a bit awkward. "He mentioned helping his friends unclog some drains." "Eh?" Mafa looked surprised. "He knows how to do that? Isn't that something you'd call a professional plumber for?" "Haha." Mai's lips curled into a faint, sarcastic smile. She replied with a cryptic tone. "He is quite skilled at clearing blockages. Once someone experiences his work, they tend to get hooked." "Oh? That's a peculiar way to put it." Mafa's confusion only deepened. "Well, then, maybe I'll have Rayao-kun help if I ever have plumbing issues at home," she said casually. Mai pulled the corners of her mouth taut in an effort not to react. Even though she knew they were talking about completely different things, she couldn't help but worry that Mafa-sensei might already be on Rayao's radar. If that were the case, clearing her pipes might just be a matter of time. "Well, since Rayao-kun hasn't come back yet, I should head home," Mafa said, preparing to leave. She walked toward the door, opened it, and froze. A figure materialized out of thin air. Mafo and Rao locked eyes. From inside the room, Mai witnessed the scene unfold, her eyelid twitching in disbelief. Had Rao just been caught in the act? Mafo tilted her head slightly, as if trying to process what she was seeing. Then she turned to Mai, confused. Mai-san, am I imagining things, or is Rao-kun standing right in front of me? I feel like I'm hallucinating, she added nervously. How on earth was Mai supposed to answer that? Rao, however, quickly jumped in to handle it. Mafo-sensei, you're not hallucinating. It's really me, he said calmly. Mafo stiffly turned back to face him, her complexion growing pale. Rao-kun. You're not a ghost, are you? PFFT. Rao couldn't help but chuckle, narrowing his eyes mischievously as he leaned in slightly. Well, Mafo-sensei, since you've seen me, I can't let you leave, he teased, adopting a sinister tone. I'm a lustful spirit, and from now on, you'll stay here as my personal plaything. Eek. Mafo's face went white as a sheet, and before anyone could react, her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed backward. Mafo-sensei. Mai was startled and quickly rushed over. Fortunately, Rao had caught her in time. Mai knelt beside them, her voice filled with worry. What happened to her? Rao sighed and shook his head. She fainted from fright. Luckily, I used my powers to calm her body. She's just asleep now. She fainted? Mai said, exasperated. She turned to glare at him. Who told you it was okay to joke like that with our teacher? Cough. Rao coughed awkwardly, clearly embarrassed. Even so, Mai's next words completely threw him off. And how could you joke about turning Mafo-sensei into your plaything? Rao blinked, utterly speechless. Did Mai really think that was what scared her? Rao carried Mafo-girasu to the sofa and ensured she was in good condition before letting her sleep. Meanwhile, Mai noticed the visible red marks on his neck. Undoubtedly left by Akam and the others. And pointed toward the bathroom. Go take a shower. Her tone betrayed her possessiveness. Rao, already planning to clean up, smirked and suggested. Want to join me? No way. Mai rejected him firmly, emphasizing each word before quickly turning and leaving, effectively fleeing from the scene. She didn't trust that he just wanted to shower. Rao's outrageous stamina and boundless energy left her overwhelmed. He had just indulged himself with Akam and the others, and now he wanted to switch to her without any pause. Unbelievable. Even she had her limits. I really wish someone would step in and share the load, she thought. For a fleeting moment, she even hoped that Mafo-sensei might actually become his as he joked. Rao didn't push further, understanding that relying solely on Mai was indeed asking too much. The constant exertion would exhaust anyone, no matter how resilient. Agon Academy in the principal's office, Stella Vermillion stood uneasily, gazing at the stern and professional Kirano Shinji. She couldn't reconcile this composed demeanor with the sultry sounds Kirano had made not long ago. How could someone who had been so lost in pleasure now appear so calm and unshaken, as if nothing had happened? Besides Stella were Ikki Kurogane and Shizuka Kurogane. Kirano rested her chin on her hands, her sharp gaze sweeping over the trio. Stella, Ikki Kurogane, Shizuka Kurogane. There's something I need to inform you about. The inter-school battle is approaching. I hope you all aim for the best possible rankings, even against senior students. Stella snorted dismissively. You don't need to tell me. I'll crush them. Her confidence stemmed from her newfound strength. Granted by none other than Rao. As her trump card, Dragon Form allowed her to access his power. Even without activating it, she could sense the immense, fiery strength burning within. She doubted anyone in Agon Academy, including their reserved principal, could withstand it. Shizuku responded calmly. I will do my best. Same here. Ikki Kurogane, brimming with determination, clenched his fists. He wanted to prove his worth despite his low magic aptitude, relying instead on his swordsmanship. Out of the corner of his eye, he glanced at Stella, hoping to exchange a few words, but her sharp glare froze him in place. Guess that misunderstanding will never be cleared up. Sighing internally, he decided not to provoke her further. Shizuku, observing her brother's hesitation, shook her head in disappointment. Anii-sama will never surpass Rao. Kirano, who had once held high expectations for Ikki, now regarded him with less enthusiasm. She had witnessed a far more extraordinary young man. One who dominated in both power and presence. Even now, beneath her business attire, Kirano could still feel the remnants of Rao's overwhelming mark on her. Walking down the bustling streets, Tato marveled at the human world. Disguised in a maid outfit, with her horns and tail concealed by magic, she curiously observed everything around her. The lively crowds and fascinating trinkets were unlike anything in her world. The only downside was how often these items required something called money, which she lacked. While she could easily obtain them through force, Rayau's stern warnings against causing trouble echoed in her mind. Thus, she refrained, content to examine things up close before moving on. Human interactions intrigued her. Compared to the chaotic conflicts of her world, their peacefulness was refreshing. Still, her inability to fully integrate into their society annoyed her. Ugh, this is so annoying. She ruffled her hair in frustration. Her respect for Rayau and her promise to avoid trouble stopped her from taking shortcuts. Suddenly, a thought struck her, and her golden eyes brightened. Wait. Why don't I just find Rayau? With renewed enthusiasm, she began tracing his energy. Chapter 111, Private Chat, and Tatu's Visit, Ding. Your number of trades has reached a threshold. The private chat feature is now available. Rayau had just stepped out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist when he noticed the new notification from the chat group. Private chat, the function was self-explanatory, but upon reading the detailed description, his eyes lit up with excitement. This feature was far more useful than he had anticipated. Private chat, members of the chat group can now engage in one-on-one private chats. Subgroup members can also communicate privately using this feature. While the ability for private channels was intriguing, the real game changer was allowing subgroup members to send private messages. Previously, subgroup members couldn't speak in the main chat and could only observe silently. If Rayau wanted to know anything, he had to rely on other main group members nearby, which was often cumbersome. Now, things were different. As soon as the feature went live, someone sent him a private message. Yumiko Miura, pervert, scoundrel, trash. It was Yumiko. She started the conversation with an aggressive outburst, but Rayau wasn't surprised. Given how he behaved in the chat group, this was likely the image she had of him. Rayau, oh? Have you already started to hate me? Yumiko Miura, Humphrey, I never said that. Lying on her bed, Yumiko had been eager to test the new feature. Seeing Rayau's reply made her kick her legs excitedly. However, his next message made her freeze. Rayau, by the way, don't we already have each other's contact info? Why not just text me? Yumiko Miura. Why didn't she text him? Because it would make her seem too eager, of course. So why use private chat? Well, it felt less formal than texting, she supposed. Yumiko Miura, Humphrey, because I wanted to. Yumiko Miura, you're such an unreliable guy. Rayau, unreliable? How so? Yumiko frowned, her expression turning slightly melancholic as she typed. Yumiko Miura, you said you were going to pursue me, but what have you done instead? Yumiko Miura, not only do you fool around with other women every day, but you even started flirting with Yue. She immediately regretted sending the second message, worrying that it might inadvertently hurt Yue. But Rayau's reply hit her like a bolt of lightning. Rayau, oh? How do you know I was flirting with Yue last weekend? Yumiko Miura? She had only been venting in frustration, but now it seemed she had accidentally uncovered something. Yumiko tensed up. Yumiko Miura, last weekend? Don't tell me you two went on a trip or stayed at a hotel. She dreaded hearing Rayau confirm it. Dreaded the idea that something might have already happened between him and Yue. Yue was different from the others. She was her closest friend. Yumiko could turn a blind eye to other women, but if it was Yue. Rayau, not that far. Rayau, we just went to school to make cookies together. Upon reading this, Yumiko let out a massive sigh of relief. At least things hadn't gone too far yet. However, Yue didn't even tell me she was going on a date. Yumiko chewed nervously on her nails, feeling a surge of betrayal. The ship of their friendship was on the verge of capsizing. Meanwhile, in the main chat group, Fryron, the new chat group feature is quite interesting. I can now see avatars of people I couldn't before. Those must be the subgroup owners, right? Rayau, that's correct. Stella, Humphrey, what's so exciting about that? It's just a private chat feature. Shizu Aizawa, Velzard and Velgrind seem pretty excited about it. Stella, sorry I was referring to that Shizuku over there. Sakobujujima, I think it's nice. This way, even Ray and the others can communicate directly with Rayau. Rayau, but suddenly getting bombarded with a bunch of love-filled private messages is pretty exhausting to reply to one by one. Indeed, Rayau had received many private messages. For example, Velzard, hubby, that's what humans call it, right? When are you coming to visit? Velgrind, Humphrey, when are you coming over? Just so you know, I only want to experience the power of the Crimson Lotus. One was straightforward and intense. The other, with a hint of tsundere tone, still exuded the usual domineering aura of Velgrind. Apart from them, Ray, Shizuku Kurogane, and others were no exception. Rayau replied to each of them individually, whether they were already his or on his target list. Sui, I just sent one as a test. Ayamamagawa, sorry, I sent one too. Fryron, so, This is basically admission, right? Stella, don't flaunt your love in the group. While Stella protested against the group PDA, she herself initiated a private chat with Rao. Stella, hey, you idiot, perverted scoundrel. In a few days, Hagon Academy will be holding its ranking tournament. Do you want to come? Stella, Humphrey, not that I want you to come. I just want you to see how strong I've become. Rao chuckled and shook his head. Compared to Velgrund, this one was a textbook tsundere. Rao, I'd like to go, but what do you have to trade? Stella. Only then did Stella realize the issue. She had nothing left to offer but her body. Stella? Her entire face turned beet red. No way. She couldn't possibly do it. Rao could practically imagine her flustered state from the abrupt silence. Rao, haha, just kidding. Don't worry. I'll have Kirano initiate the trade instead. After all, she is mine. Stella. What he said was indeed a feasible solution, but why did Stella feel even more annoyed? Perhaps it was because he'd be spending time with the headmistress again. How annoying. Stella angrily shook her pillow in frustration before sending one final message. Stella, come if you want, or don't. Whatever. At that moment, Mifagirasu, lying on the sofa, began to stir. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? The classic three questions floated through her mind as she slowly woke up. Sitting up on the sofa, Mifa froze completely because standing beside her was Rao, dressed in nothing but a towel, his incredibly well-defined body drawing her gaze. You're awake, Mifa-sensei, Rao said, withdrawing his attention from the chat group and looking at her. As their eyes met, Mifa's widened in shock. She scrambled back, shouting. I don't want to become a sex slave? Rao was utterly confused. So it really was that phrase that scared her. Hearing the commotion, Mai Sakurajima came out of the bedroom. Seeing Rao freshly out of the shower, she tugged at the corners of her mouth and glared at him. Hurry up and get dressed already. Shrugging helplessly, Rao turned and walked back into the bedroom. Mai then moved to comfort Mifu, explaining that she had been asleep, and everything she remembered was just a dream. Mifu, being rather gullible, accepted the explanation immediately. Phew, I was wondering how Rao-kun could turn into a ghost and say something about turning me into a sex slave. Just saying that term made her cheeks flush red. She understood enough to know what it meant. Mai desperately wanted to clarify that Rao had said exactly that, and that it was probably a reflection of his inner thoughts. But she held back, deciding not to push Mifa further. Phew, since everything's fine, I'll be leaving now. Mifa couldn't bring herself to properly say goodbye to Rao. After all, her earlier reaction had been so embarrassing. Not to mention, she had accidentally seen Rao's nearly naked body, and now couldn't bear to face him again. Still, recalling it, she admitted that his physique was even better than the male models in magazines. Ugh! What am I thinking? Shaking her head to clear those thoughts, Mifa only wanted to leave this place where her dignity had suffered so much. Mai watched her walk to the entrance, open the door, and then thud. Once again, Mifa's eyes rolled back, and she fell backward onto the floor. Stunned, Mai rushed to catch her. But when she looked toward the door, she froze in disbelief. There, staring at them, was a dragon's head. Startled, Mai instinctively called out. Rao-kun. The dragon's golden eyes flicked toward her, seemingly recognizing her voice. Taru? Rao, now dressed casually, stepped out and saw the scene at the door. He immediately recognized the dragon. Seeing Mifa faint in Mai's arms, he couldn't help but laugh helplessly. Taru, can't you use a different form? Oh, I just didn't want you to fail to recognize me, Taru replied. With that, a magical circle shimmered into existence, and her massive form began to shrink. Moments later, Taru reappeared in her maid outfit. Mai stared blankly at the transformation, astonished. You're Taru? The one from the chat group? Yes, it's me. Taru said with a playful wink. However, her expression suddenly turned cold and menacing as she barked sharply. Who are you? Down the corridor, 2 angels and 2 demons appeared, their gazes fixed on Taru with wary determination. It was Gabriel, Vignette, Raphael, and Satania. Having sensed the magical presence, they had rushed over. Rao pinched the bridge of his nose in exasperation. Taru, they're my friends. Friends? Taru frowned. Gabriel also looked at Rao curiously. Rao, you know her? Let's all go inside and talk, Rao said, motioning them in. Chapter 112, Taru's resolve to not go back. Mifagirasu was set aside and entrusted to Mai for care. Rao, the Angela, the demons, and the dragon. A group of people stood in the living room, exchanging uncertain glances. After some introductions, they had a basic understanding of each other. However, out of caution, No one spoke at first. It was Raphael who initiated the main topic of discussion. Dragon from another world, can you return to your original world? Her straightforward thought was to send Taru, the dragon, back to her original world. Having such a powerful dragon in the human world was extremely dangerous. However, Taru resolutely shook her head. I don't want to. Why not? Vignette was puzzled. Since it's your world, why wouldn't you go back? Could it be that you have some ulterior motives for this world? Satania bared her small fangs. Satania-sama won't let you run rampant. The future of this world belongs to the great demon Satania. Satania remained as bold as ever. The celestial world, the demon world, and the afterworld will not allow you to act recklessly in this world. Even the usually lazy Gabriel was unusually serious, taking out a golden horn. The horn of destruction. If Taru dared to act recklessly, Gabriel wouldn't hesitate to summon her elder sister with it. It was clear that the four of them were highly cautious of Taru. After all, she was a powerful dragon. At this, Rael spoke up. Taru, why don't you explain your thoughts to them? I don't think you came to find me without a reason. He tried to ease the tension. Taru lowered her gaze slightly. Honestly, my world is chaotic. Raphael interjected. We're aware of that. A multitude of races fighting endlessly for power and territory. To speed up the conversation, Raphael shared the intelligence she knew. Additionally, the celestial and demon worlds have already sent envoys to your world to negotiate with the apex being there. A red dragon. The apex of the world. A red dragon. These two keywords intertwined in Taru's mind. She exclaimed in shock. Is it the Emperor of Demise? Gabriel and the others exchanged glances. It seems to be someone called the Emperor of Demise. Since you're a dragon, you should know. Taru's lips curled bitterly. Yes, the Emperor of Demises. My father. Father? Vignette's jaw dropped in shock. The daughter of an immensely powerful being from another world was standing right next to them. I no longer wish to engage in meaningless battles. This was Taru's stance. She wanted to escape war and live a peaceful, stable life. However, Raphael furrowed her brows deeply. The Emperor of Demise is said to be the leader of the Chaos faction in that world, and he doesn't have a favorable view of humanity. So, you. I also despise humans, Taru replied coldly. Deceitful, cunning humans are my enemies. I've fought against them and the gods for 1,000 years. Satania and the others gripped their weapons tightly. Hearing her stance on humanity, they feared Taru might suddenly lash out. Rael sighed. Relax. Taru is referring to the magic-wielding humans from her world. Taru nodded. That's correct. The humans in this world are ordinary. They haven't even seen a true dragon. So I have no particular thoughts about the humans in this world. Taru was clear about this. She wouldn't project the hatred from her world onto unrelated individuals. I don't want to go back because I'm tired of war and the endless cycle of death. I ended up in this world because I almost died in a battle with the gods. It was an accident. Taru looked at Rael with gratitude in her eyes. I thought I was going to die back then, but Rael saved me. I also promised him that I wouldn't cause trouble in this world. That's my commitment. This heartfelt sincerity didn't seem fake. Gabriel was silent for a moment before putting away the horn of destruction. Her once serious expression turned lazy and vacant as she yawned and slumped, saying, Oh, if that's the case, then there's no problem, right? She was eager to get back to gaming. Well. After some hesitation, Vignette and the others also put away their weapons. At this point, could they really attack her? Besides, even if they wanted to, they weren't confident they could defeat Taru. Raphael smiled. Would you mind if we report your situation? Taru nodded. Do as you like. I'm not leaving anyway. Vignette sighed with a wry smile. As long as you don't harm others, we won't force you to leave. But where do you plan to stay? To be honest, the three worlds would prefer that ordinary humans remain unaware of the supernatural in the world. I'm here to find Rael, Taru replied, staring intently at him. Rael wasn't surprised. I could tell. So, what exactly do you need from me? Just say it. I want to live with you. Eh? Taru's words left everyone stunned. She then explained her reasons. She wanted to experience human life. However, without using magic, she had nowhere to live, no money to buy things, and thus decided to seek Rael's help. Raphael pondered. That doesn't sound like a bad idea. Not only would Taru have Rael's supervision, but they could also keep an eye on her. Satania's eyes lit up. Does this mean Master has tamed a dragon? But wouldn't this be too much trouble for Rael? Vignette asked worriedly. Like living expenses and all that? Taru fell silent. I have no money. For the first time, she truly understood what it meant to be unable to move without money. Money isn't an issue, Rael said. He didn't mind taking in a dragon, especially one in the form of a beautiful girl with an impressive figure. His gaze fell on Toru's maid outfit. Rubbing his chin, he mused. If you want to stay here, that's fine, but you'll need to work in exchange for the privilege. Work? Toru's eyes lit up. Do you want me to kill enemies? Her first instinct was that work meant fighting enemies. Although she didn't want to fight anymore, if defeating enemies could earn her a stable life, it might be worth it. That won't be necessary. Do you know what the outfit you're wearing is called? Rao asked, pointing at her clothing. Outfit? Toru looked down at herself and shook her head. I don't know. Raphael's eyes sparkled as an idea struck her. With a meaningful glance at Rao, she exaggeratedly said. It's a very famous maid uniform. Maid uniform? Toru turned to her, curious about the meaning. It's the outfit worn by maids who serve their masters, Raphael explained in a somewhat dramatic tone. Though her explanation was a bit exaggerated, the basic idea was clear. Though open to interpretation. For instance, Toru's first thought was that it resembled the attire of slaves in human society. She frowned slightly. Are you asking me to become a slave? Not that extreme, Rao corrected. In modern society, a maid is a profession, not what your world would call a slave. If you want to stay here, you could become my household's maid. Your job would be to clean the house, and perhaps you could also learn to cook. Oh. It seemed different from what she had imagined. Cleaning meant making spaces clean, something she could easily do with magic. As for cooking, it involved preparing food humans could eat. She could learn that. It didn't sound too difficult. Toru immediately agreed. All right, I'll be your maid. Hearing this, Rao smiled and extended his hand. Welcome to your new home, Toru. Toru stared at his hand for a moment before reaching out to shake it. Thank you. Her gratitude came from the heart. Not only had he saved her life, but he was also taking her in. Rao was a good person. Ah, what a beautiful resolution, Raphael said with a smile, clapping her hands. There was no conflict. Toru had a place to stay. They could fulfill their duties. Rao gained a maid. Everyone had a bright future ahead. Except for Mifagirasu, who was unconscious. A world where only Mifagirasu was left to suffer had been born. Mifagirasu woke up again. You're awake. Before she could say anything, Rao interrupted her. A flash of confusion crossed her eyes, as if she had just remembered something. Mifagirasu suddenly cried out in terror. Dragon, 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 dragon. She vividly recalled seeing a dragon. Are you calling for me? Toru poked her head out of the kitchen. From inside came Mai's voice, she's not calling you. Get back here and focus on learning properly. Oh, okay. Toru pulled her head back. Mai was teaching her how to use the kitchen appliances. Toru's ability to learn was truly exceptional. Whether it was the television, washing machine, or shower, Mai only needed to explain each device once, and Toru completely understood how to use them. Moreover, after trying them just once, she used them with remarkable proficiency, almost as if she had mastered them. Even Mai was incredibly envious of Toru's learning ability. Who is she? Mifagirasu found Toru unfamiliar. She couldn't see the dragon tail Toru had hidden with magic from everyone else's view. To her, Toru just looked like a girl dressed in cosplay. She's the new maid I just hired. Rao naturally extended his hand. Mifa instinctively reached out in response. Her soft, delicate hand was enveloped by his reassuringly firm hand, which effortlessly pulled her upright from the sofa. It was so easy for him. Do you feel any discomfort? Rao asked. Although he didn't think there was anything wrong, it was still better to ask about her feelings. Mifa checked herself over with some hesitation. The main issue was her head. Pressing her fingers against her brow, she looked slightly troubled. Well, I feel a bit dizzy. Did I have a nightmare again? A dream within a dream? Having had a similar experience before, she wasn't as panicked this time. Instead, she started to suspect that she had been trapped in a dream within a dream. Maybe, Rao replied vaguely. After witnessing her faint twice from fright, he decided not to push her any further. He didn't want to accidentally traumatize Mifa. Seeing her pressing her temples in pain, Rao knelt down, gently removed her hands, and placed his fingers on her temples. Mifa immediately felt a cool sensation, and the pain vanished in an instant. Just a little massage technique. How does it feel? Of course, he had infused a tiny bit of elemental energy into his massage. For the first time, Mifa found herself face to face at eye level with Rao, who was a full head taller than her. And at such a close distance, engaging in such an intimate gesture. For a moment, Mifa didn't know what to say. It's, much better. Her words came out stammered, her voice faltering. Meanwhile, her eyes darted around, unsure of where to look. Should she look at Rao's face? That would be mortifying. But lowering her head, Even worse. Because she suddenly remembered the dream where she had seen Rao's perfect physique. Instinctively, her eyes traced the outline of his figure beneath his clothes. Gulp. It matched her dream exactly. So much so that she swallowed reflexively. Noticing her gaze, Rao chuckled softly. Mifa-sensei, is there something particularly interesting about me? Ugh. It was like being caught red-handed. Mifa's face turned crimson in an instant. Feeling utterly mortified, she couldn't bring herself to meet his eyes. She suddenly jumped to her feet. Well, I'll just head home now. She blurted out the excuse and dashed out as if fleeing. In just a few seconds, she had opened and shut the door with practiced swiftness. This time, at least, she didn't faint from fright. But outside, Mifa wasn't feeling calm at all. Leaning against the door, she panted heavily. What's wrong with me? She silently cursed herself. She had just harbored inappropriate thoughts about a student. And worse, she had dreamed about seeing Rao naked. How shameless can I get? Mifa-sensei? As she berated herself, a voice called out to her. Looking up, she saw Yukino Shita standing there, holding a bag of groceries, staring at her in surprise. Yukino Shita-san. Why was her student here? Yukino Shita looked equally confused about why her teacher was there. Mifa-sensei, what are you doing here? I was just visiting a friend. What about you? Mifa gave a vague answer and quickly turned the question back on Yukino Shita, trying to shift the topic. There was no way she wanted one of her students to know how embarrassing her situation had just been. Chapter 113, Dragon Tale, Mrs. Uegahama. Friend. Yukino glanced at the doorplate. This was definitely Rao's home. Mifa-sensei and Rao were friends. This thought made her recall Rao's pursuit of Shizuka-sensei. Could it be? Though the most exaggerated speculation crossed her mind, she didn't show it. Instead, she calmly replied. I just moved into this apartment recently, right next door. Hearing this, Mifa-girasu felt a sharp pain in her teeth. Right next to Rao's home. Why do such coincidences always happen? She was well aware of the strict image she held among her Class 3-1 students. If Yukino were to learn about her true self, Mifa-girasu felt she might as well reincarnate. She just hoped Yukino didn't know Rao, wouldn't meet him, and definitely wouldn't discuss her with him. She forced an awkward but polite smile onto her face. Welcome, Yukino Shita-san. I live downstairs in 301. If you ever need anything, feel free to come to me. Thank you, sensei. Please take care of me. Alright, I'll be heading back now. Without another word, Mifa-girasu turned and left, afraid Yukino Shita might ask her anything else. Meanwhile, she silently hoped Yukino Shita would never come looking for her. After all, she knew best how messy her own home was. Watching Mifa-girasu's hurried departure and then glancing at Rao's doorplate again, Yukino Shita thought, I hope my suspicions aren't true. However, whether they were or weren't didn't really matter. In the group chat, she had already witnessed Rao's flirtatious nature and shocking behavior. She despised such indulgent and lust-driven behavior. But since Rao and the others weren't ordinary people, she didn't want to interfere. Such matters would never affect her personally. She simply couldn't tolerate philandering men. Absolutely not. Dinner time. This was Toru's chance to showcase her cooking progress. Dinner is ready. Excited, Toru carried a large platter to the table. As her instructor, Mai adopted a serious expression. Toru, if it isn't good, you'll face punishment. Yes, sensei. Haha, why are you two playing role-playing now? Rao teased as he casually lifted the cover on the platter. The revealed food left Rao speechless. A large piece of roasted meat. Quite fragrant. Mai looked puzzled upon seeing the meat. What kind of meat is this? I don't remember there being such a large piece in the fridge. It wouldn't even fit in there, would it? She turned to Toru. Did you buy this? Toru smiled mysteriously. Nope. Rao, Mai, just try it. This. Unable to discern what kind of meat it was, Mai hesitated to take a bite. However, Rao had already noticed something suspicious. He said to Toru. Turn around. Alright. Toru shrank her neck but obediently turned around under Rao's gaze. Mai finally realized what kind of meat was on the plate. It was Toru's tail. When she turned, it was obvious that a section of her tail was missing. This is edible? Mai recoiled in shock, unable to even look directly at the fragrant roasted meat. Toru proudly declared. Of course, it's edible. And it's delicious. Despite her reassurance, Mai didn't dare try it. But Rao, curious about the taste of dragon tail, actually took a bite under Mai's stunned gaze. Toru's eyes lit up, her heart swelling with joy. It was the feeling of trust. Rao, what are you doing? Mai tried to stop him. But Rao, already chewing, swallowed and exclaimed. It's really delicious. Toru, your cooking is great. Hee hee. Embarrassed by the praise, Toru wriggled shyly. Rei-ao, that's her tail, Mai reminded him. Of course I know. But it's also dragon meat. Toru's tail can regenerate. Exactly. It grows back, no problem. Toru cheerfully added. Toru flicked her tail. In just a few moments, the missing section of her tail regrew at a speed visible to the naked eye. The dragon's tail was fully restored in the blink of an eye, leaving Mai utterly stunned. Before anyone could say anything, Toru suddenly turned her attention to Rei-ao, her eyes widening in disbelief. Moments earlier, an overwhelming aura had briefly emanated from him, even if only for a fleeting second. After scrutinizing him for a while, Toru hesitantly asked. Rei-ao, did eating my tail make you stronger? She didn't recall her tail having such an effect. Hey, who knows? Rei-ao responded with a sly smirk. Moments earlier, his level had jumped again. Now he was level 47. There was no doubt in his mind that it was due to the efforts of his 2 dragon wives. Ah, how wonderful it would be to live like this forever, relying on them to support him. Truly blissful. Watching Rei-ao enjoy the tail meat so much, Mai, despite the tingling at the back of her head, reluctantly picked up a piece and took a bite. Her eyes widened. What a peculiar sensation. The taste was unlike any other meat she had ever tried. Toru eagerly asked. How is it, sensei? Did I do a good job? It's very good, Mai reluctantly admitted. The taste was indeed amazing, but she suspected the credit went more to the inherent quality of the dragon meat than Toru's cooking skills. Yay! Toru beamed with excitement. After the first bite, Mai seemed to overcome her initial resistance and started eating normally. However, the more she ate, the warmer she felt. Her skin flushed red, her whole body radiating heat. Mai unbuttoned her shirt collar, but the heat persisted. Why? Why is it so hot? Upon closer observation, Mai began shifting restlessly, soft murmurs escaping her lips. Rei-ao noticed something unusual too. He stared at the dragon tail meat and asked. Toru, does your tail have any other effects? Toru tilted her head. Of course. It originally contained a potent toxin, but I removed it during preparation. However, it still has a strong aphrodisiac effect. Aphrodisiac. Rei-ao immediately understood the situation as he looked at the increasingly flustered Mai. The reason he wasn't affected was likely due to his enhanced resistance, but Mai didn't have the same level of strength. Sigh, I guess we can't finish this meal. Without hesitation, Rei-ao carried Mai toward the bedroom. Toru, confused, called after him. Aren't you eating dinner? I need to help Mai detoxify. Fortunately, he had a special antidote for such situations. Late at night, lying awake in the guest bedroom, Toru couldn't sleep. Her sharp hearing picked up intertwined sounds from the master bedroom. Human behavior. She had a rough idea of what was happening. After all, it was caused by the effects of her tail meat. But strangely, she felt an unfamiliar heaviness in her chest. What was this feeling of melancholy? Placing her hand over her heart, Toru tried to make sense of it. In her thousands of years of existence, this was a first. To figure out what was happening, she picked up the temporary phone Rei-ao had given her and typed into the search engine, "Why does my chest feel heavy when I hear humans mating?" The next morning, the sound of a phone ringing woke Rei-ao. Rei-ao-kun, do you have time today? The voice on the other end was female. Mai, who had been resting her head on Rei-ao's chest, immediately opened her eyes. Rei-ao could also feel a tightening sensation where they were still connected. Mai, do you have some kind of built-in cheating radar? SHH. He gently placed a finger on Mai's lips to keep her from speaking. Although she glared at him in annoyance, she still teasingly licked his finger. Rei-ao answered the call calmly. I have time today. What's up? I wanted to invite you to the mall, Yua stammered nervously. A date? And no, it's not a date. Yua panicked. It's to thank you. Yes, to thank you. For saving Sable last time and helping me with cookie baking. Is that okay? Sitting in her room, Yua nervously clutched her phone, her heart racing. Until. Sure. Just send me the time and place. Hearing his agreement, Yua's face lit up with joy. Great. Thank you. After hanging up, Yua immediately got up, determined to dress up nicely for the outing. Yua, why are you so excited? Mrs. Uegahama, Yua's mother, watched curiously as her daughter bounced out of the room and rushed into the bathroom. It's nothing. I'm just meeting a friend later. A friend? Mrs. Uegahama raised an eyebrow. Her daughter's behavior didn't seem like it was just a friend. Recalling Yua's unusual mood recently, Mrs. Uegahama muttered. It must be a date with a boy. With a sigh, she got up and left the house for a moment. When she returned a few minutes later, She slipped a few small packets into Yui's purse. Just in case. Mrs. Uegahama didn't want her daughter to act recklessly, but if something did happen, these might come in handy. Chapter 114, Toru's Confession. A date with Yui. Rayao had just hung up the phone when Mai fiercely bit his finger. Only to then lick it gently, as though feeling guilty. Her actions amused Rayao. Mai, are you jealous again? Humphrey. Mai huffed, pulling his hand away. Yui Uegahama? You're at the dating stage with her now? It's not like that. She's just sincerely thanking me, Rayao replied, standing up. Today, you should rest properly. Toru's tail meat has a strong medicinal effect. Hearing this, Mai blushed deeply. Even though the medicinal effect had influenced her actions, it didn't erase her memories of what had happened. She remembered her own crazed behavior vividly. She had almost made a very embarrassing mistake. Humphrey. Embarrassed, Mai burrowed into her blanket and muffled her voice. From now on, no more dishes made from Toru's tail meat. Hey, you can tell her that yourself. Rayao chuckled and stepped out, intending to take a shower. However, as he opened the door, he found Toru standing there, seemingly up to something. The moment Toru saw him, she lunged forward and hugged him tightly, completely ignoring his state of undress. The sudden move caught Rayao off guard. Toru, what are you doing? I like you. Toru declared without hesitation. Even Rayao, who was no stranger to unexpected confessions, was momentarily thrown off by her abrupt declaration. Toru blinked her large eyes at him. According to the logic here, shouldn't you respond by saying you like me too? Logic? What logic? Here, look. Toru held out her phone. Rayao glanced at the screen, which displayed a series of search results. Why does my chest feel tight after hearing humans mating? What does it mean to like someone as a human? How do humans express their feelings of liking someone? So that's how she concluded she liked him? For the first time, Rayao felt what it was like to be liked so casually. Are you sure you like me? Toru gazed directly into Rayao's eyes. I don't know, but that's what the internet says. Are you an idiot? You believe everything the internet says? Rayao shook his head with a wry smile. What if the internet told you that you have cancer and were dying? Would you believe that too? He'd seen plenty of people who had a minor cough but, instead of going to the hospital, consulted the internet, only to panic and think they were dying. Small illnesses would be exaggerated into fatal conditions. Although Rayao was both affectionate and a womanizer, with more than a handful of conquests, he wasn't so narcissistic as to believe that someone like Toru, who had only seen him a couple of times, could truly fall for him. Even with someone like Hakam, who had been intimate with him more than once, Rayao had yet to sense true devotion. He was already planning to intensify his efforts with her. He firmly believed in the idea of love developing over time. So how could a dragon like Toru, who wasn't even human, fall in love so quickly? Then how do you explain my heart racing when I hold you? Toru asked, placing a hand on her chest. Thump thump thump. Her heartbeat was indeed rapid. In response, Rayao pointed downward. Don't you feel something pressing against you? Toru lowered her gaze. She saw it. Blinking her large, watery eyes, she abruptly let go of his neck and ran back to her room. So even Toru can get embarrassed. Rayao thought she'd run off out of shyness. But that wasn't the case. Because just as he was taking a shower. Bing bang. Toru barged into the bathroom, draped in a towel, her ample curves bouncing. The internet says you should help someone you like scrub their back. Rayao suddenly realized Toru was taking things very literally. Sigh. He sighed softly. Since she'd gone this far, how could he refuse? He wasn't one to let opportunities slip by. Looking at the voluptuous figure before him, he was already roused. Well, since you're so eager, I won't hold back. From now on, you're my girlfriend. Really? Hearing this, Toru's tail wagged like an excited puppy. Maybe you don't fully understand what love is yet, Toru, Rayao said, smirking. But I'll teach you what it means for feelings to grow over time. Humphrey, I understand perfectly. Toru pouted. Maybe she didn't understand human love, but Rayao was the first human she didn't dislike. Instinctively, she knew how dragons expressed affection. Hey! Rayao chuckled mischievously. Well then, since you understand, why don't you start by helping me out? Use that. He pointed. Toru looked down. There was nothing else there. Just the view obscured by her chest. Noon. At the mall. Rayao-kun. Over here. Yui Uegahama waved excitedly when she saw Rayao. Oh? Yui, your outfit today. Rayao approached, giving her a once-over. How is it? Yu asked nervously, worried he might say it didn't look good or wasn't suitable. But Rayao had a sharp eye for spotting beauty. You look great. Very elegant and mature. Today, Yue looked completely different from her usual schoolgirl appearance. Her pink hair was tied to the side in a floral pattern, and she wore a white floral camisole. Her collarbone and neckline were covered with a delicate silk scarf, while a black hemline and heels added a touch of sophistication. She even had a pair of earrings and carried a small pink purse, completing the look. Rei-ao was genuinely impressed. It was a sight to behold. Even after his recent encounter with Toru, Yue's outfit managed to captivate him. Well. Yue blushed at the compliment, feeling both shy and delighted. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Rei-ao took her hand. "Didn't you say this was a date? Let's go." Eh? Yue wanted to clarify that it wasn't a date, but as he held her hand, she forgot what she was about to say. And she didn't pull her hand away. She let him lead her into the mall. At the entrance of a women's clothing store. "Seriously, I've been giving him so many hints, and he hasn't made any move?" Muttering softly, Yumeko Mira complained while considering a new dress. She had even sent private messages. Couldn't Rei-ao take the initiative? It was such a perfect holiday, and yet no date was planned. How was she supposed to accept his confession without an excuse or a lead-in? She had already lowered her standards for tolerating Rei-ao and his relationships with other women to the absolute minimum. And yet, he remained indifferent. Her frustration was bubbling over when, out of the corner of her eye, she caught a familiar figure. Is that? Looking more closely, she spotted him. It was Rei-ao, standing by the counter of a bubble tea shop, looking as stylish and confident as always. And next to him, Yue Yokohama. What are they doing together? Yumeko froze in disbelief as she watched them. The two stood together, waiting for their drinks, seemingly relaxed and happy. Her mind raced, her thoughts in turmoil. And then, Rei-ao noticed her. He smiled at her, as if acknowledging her presence. Flustered, Yumeko immediately opened the chat group and sent a private message. Private message? Yumeko Mira Yumeko, what are you doing? Rei-ao smiled as he replied. Rei-ao, can't you tell? Yumeko? Yumeko, the person next to you is Yue, right? What's going on between you two? Rei-ao, haha. He turned slightly to face Yue, gently raising a hand toward her face. Rei-ao-kun. Yue's voice quivered like a whisper as her eyes fluttered. Yue, your hair is messy. With that, Rei-ao used his fingers to smooth out a strand of her silky hair. At such close proximity, Yue stared blankly at his face, her cheeks flushing. From a distance, Yumeko's grip tightened on her shopping bag. Rustle. Crunch. The bag creaked under the pressure of her anger. She was already burning with jealousy. A date? Taunting me? And with my best friend? So this was why he didn't ask me out or chase me more actively. Because he was busy dating Yue? Fine. Fine. Yumeko, I won't let you get away with this. Rei-ao, oh? So are you planning to come out now and embarrass Yue? Yumeko froze mid-step. She had been ready to storm over but stopped in her tracks. He's right. That would embarrass Yue, wouldn't it? And it wasn't as though she and Rei-ao were officially anything yet. Here's your drink. Let's go look around over there. Rei-ao handed Yue her bubble tea, taking her other hand and leading her toward another section of the mall. Yue, blushing but obedient, quietly followed while sipping her drink. Damn it. Yumeko stomped her foot in frustration, clenching her fists. She was consumed by a mix of jealousy, anger, and helplessness. The guy I like is flirting with my best friend. Why did she have to witness this? She didn't want Yue to feel hurt or embarrassed, which was why she hesitated earlier and didn't interrupt their outing. But letting Yue continue with Rei-ao felt far too dangerous. Who was Rei-ao? He was the guy who had seduced many women in the chat group, including pairs like Hiriko and Saya Takagi. Someone like Yue, who was a natural airhead and easily influenced by mood and atmosphere, was bound to fall into his trap without realizing it. There was no way Yumeko could let that happen. Quietly, she began following them from a distance. If she noticed anything suspicious, she was determined to step in and stop it. Chapter 115, Caught in the Act. All hail the Demon King. Rei-ao was well aware that Yumeko Miro was secretly following them. He chose not to expose her. Instead, he continued walking and shopping casually with Yue. Yumeko's tracking drew curious glances from other passers-by, forcing her to buy a cap and mask to cover her face. Despite the embarrassment, she persisted. This is for Yue. Her determination was admirable. The pair wandered around until evening, eventually stopping for dinner. Yumeko never once lost sight of them. Did you have fun? Rei-ao asked Yue. Absolutely. Yue replied without hesitation, but then her face flushed. Sorry. I was supposed to thank Rei-ao-kun, but I kind of got carried away and forgot. It's fine. Rei-ao smiled gently. Spending the day with a beautiful girl like you is already a treat for me. The critical moment was coming. Why does Rei-ao-kun always compliment me so suddenly? You're making me shy, Yui was far from immune to his direct praise. The occasional compliments throughout the afternoon had kept her blushing and her heart racing. After patting her cheeks to cool herself down, her gaze shifted to a nearby cinema. Her eyes sparkled with an idea. Rao-kun, let's watch a movie. I'll buy the tickets. Sure, Rao agreed without hesitation. After all, a movie theater was the perfect place to foster intimacy. And at this time of day. 8 p.m. It was even better. Movie theater. Yumiko saw the two enter the cinema. Watching a movie at this hour? Her mind raced with possibilities. A 2-hour movie would end around 10 p.m. What would happen after that? She thought of countless stories in novels where couples wouldn't go home after such a time, instead heading to a hotel. No way. I have to stop this. Determined, Yumiko followed them into the theater. It wasn't particularly crowded, and they had chosen a horror movie. Horror movies aren't really my thing if I'm watching alone, Yua said playfully, blinking her big eyes. But with Rao-kun here, I think I'll be fine. Thus, she bought the tickets. When they entered the screening room, there were even fewer people than expected. Rao and Yua's seats were close together, with just one other person nearby. Yumiko, sitting right behind them. The horror movie began. Yumiko immediately regretted her decision. She shouldn't have bought a ticket. It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. The empty theater only made it worse. And with the backs of the chairs in front of her blocking her view, she couldn't even see Rao and Yua clearly. Suddenly, through the gap between two seats, she spotted one shadow leaning closer to another. She instantly sent a private message. Private message? Yumiko Mira Yumiko, what are you doing? Rao, shouldn't I be asking you that? You've been following us all day. Yumiko, Humphrey. It's because you're going after Yua. I need to protect her. Yumiko, are you taking advantage of her right now? She was certain that Rao was trying something inappropriate with Yua. Rao, Rao, photo, Rao, see for yourself. She leaned on me first. Yumiko. She was speechless. In the photo, Yua clung to Rao's arm with a fearful expression, snuggling against him for comfort. So envious. Wait, no. What am I thinking? He's just a perverted wolf. Furious, Yumiko fumed silently. But since it was Yua's own choice, she couldn't figure out how to intervene. All she could do was send a harsh warning. Yumiko, Humphrey. Don't think you will get away with anything. I'll be watching you two all night. Rao smirked as he read her message. Gently, he pulled his arm out of Yua's embrace. Yua's expression dimmed slightly. She started to straighten up, only for Rao to drape his arm over her shoulders. If you're scared, you can stay like this, he said softly. Feeling his arm around her and his comforting presence, Yua leaned closer to rest her head on his shoulder. She didn't resist at all. She murmured shyly, barely audible. But at that moment, Yua had entirely stopped paying attention to the movie. Instead, she found herself secretly gazing at Rao's profile, her heart racing faster than ever. Behind them, Yumiko Mira gritted her teeth in frustration. Movies, like anything else, always had their dull moments, and horror films were no exception. Rao-kun, I need to use the restroom, Yua said shyly, her voice full of embarrassment. Although she was reluctant to part with the comforting warmth and safety of Rao's presence, nature had called. Go ahead, he replied warmly. Yua stood and headed toward the exit. Yumiko immediately got up as well. She shot a glare at Rao when their eyes met but then quickly followed Yua, trying to act inconspicuous. I'll pretend to run into her and give her a little warning. Otherwise, this clueless girl was going to be tricked into a hotel tonight. As the two left, Rao narrowed his eyes. A chilling draft suddenly filled the theater. Ugh, it's freezing. What's going on? Did the AC malfunction or something? The temperature had dropped so sharply that several scattered viewers couldn't handle it and began leaving one by one. Rao stood and stared coldly at the movie screen. Your food's gone. Are you coming out, or do I have to drag you out? Meanwhile, Yua had finished washing her hands after using the restroom. She glanced at the mirror, noticing that her cheeks were still flushed. The memory of clinging so closely to Rao replayed in her mind, causing her blush to deepen. She couldn't believe how bold she had been. Just as she prepared to return to the theater, a figure suddenly bumped into her. Ah! Unable to dodge, her bag slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. Sorry. The voice was strangely familiar. Yumiko? Yua asked, surprised. Yumiko feigned shock as she looked up, acting as if she had only just recognized her friend. Yumiko, what are you doing here? I could ask the same. I didn't expect to see you watching a movie too. Yeah, just a movie, Yua stammered, flustered. She felt uneasy, worried that Yumiko might discover she was here with Rao. She didn't know how Yumiko would react if she found out. I need to leave quickly. Yui bent down to pick up her bag. But before she could, Yumiko's hand got there first, grabbing a few items that had spilled out. What's this? Yumiko's eyes widened. Condoms? Yumiko froze in shock, her mind racing. Yui, why do you have condoms in your bag? Her hands trembled as an absurd thought began to form. Was this not a case of Rei-ao seducing Yui? Could it be Yui who was trying to seduce Rei-ao? Otherwise, how could Yui explain carrying condoms? Her best friend. Trying to seduce the guy she liked? Huh? Yui stared at the condoms in Yumiko's hand, her mind going blank. They're not mine. I swear. She frantically tried to explain. She genuinely had no intention of doing anything with Rei-ao and had no idea how those items ended up in her bag. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Opening it, she saw a message from her mom. Mom, Yui, it's getting late. I figured you might not come home tonight, so I slipped a few condoms into your bag. Be responsible, okay? Yui's face turned beet red. And Mom. Yumiko, who had accidentally glanced at the text, immediately realized the truth. It was Yui's mom who had put them there. She had misunderstood Yui. Still, she hesitated, holding the condoms like they were a hot potato. Yumiko cleared her throat, attempting to act serious. Yui, are you on a date with a guy? Don't do anything reckless. I'll hold on to these for now. You can get them back from me later. She quickly stuffed the condoms into her pocket. Before Yui could protest, Yumiko pressed further. Who's the guy you're with? As your friend, I have to meet him. Yui began to sweat nervously. She couldn't admit it was Rei-ao. Seeing her hesitation, Yumiko's suspicions deepened. My best friend is up to no good. Thinking quickly, Yumiko linked arms with Yui. It's not hard to guess. The only movie showing right now is that horror film, and I was watching it too. Let's head back together. Before Yui could come up with an excuse, Yumiko began dragging her toward the theater. Caught off guard, Yui had no choice but to follow, her face flushed with embarrassment. As they re-entered the theater, Yui's mind raced, desperately trying to come up with an explanation. Her face burned with anxiety as she trailed behind Yumiko. But the moment they stepped inside, a chilling gust of air hit her, stopping her thoughts in their tracks. Brr. Yui gasped audibly, her teeth chattering. What's going on? Why is it so cold? And where is everyone? She rubbed her arms as a shiver ran down her spine, looking around the now nearly empty theater. Before she could figure it out, Yumiko pointed toward the front of the room and murmured nervously. Rei-ao? Yui froze in surprise. Did he notice us? But when she followed Yumiko's gaze, her mouth fell open in shock. There, in front of the movie screen, stood Rei-ao. But what caught her attention wasn't just him. It was the strange, towering eyes sculpture in front of him. Encased within was a grotesque, wolf-like creature that looked horrifyingly lifelike. Is this some kind of special movie effect? Yui thought aloud, attempting to rationalize what she saw. However, this was far from a cinematic stunt. The next moment, beams of holy light and dark smoke materialized out of nowhere. Angelic and demonic presences filled the room. Yui's head spun. Wait. Didn't I come here to watch a horror movie about a supernatural curse? Why are there angels and demons here now? Rei-ao paid no attention to the two confused girls at the back of the theater. Instead, he turned to the angel Raphael and the demon Vignette, who had just arrived. This one has magic as well, he said, gesturing at the frozen creature. Indeed, Vignette replied seriously. The last time we encountered one of these, I sent it back to the demon world for study. They seem to be strange creatures that absorb negative emotions and convert them into magical power. They're more like aberrations than true demons. However, she added, it didn't originate in the demon world. We suspect these entities are coming from another dimension entirely. Rei-ao nodded, glancing at the frozen beast before him. Demon, werewolf demon, level 12, ability, Eyes of Fear. It feeds on negative emotions, which explains why it's lurking in a horror movie screening, Rei-ao observed. Raphael chimed in with a hypothesis. Could this have come from the newly dubbed Dragon World? That's what we're calling the world where Toru is from, right? The Dragon World. An alternate dimension recognized by angels, demons, and gods. Had recently begun overlapping with their own world. No, Rei-ao shook his head. Toru told me there's nothing like this in her world. She would have noticed if there were. Then where is it from? Vignette mused. Rei-ao cracked his knuckles. Guess we'll have to ask it ourselves. He rapped his knuckles against the ice, causing sharp cracks to echo through the room. Crack. Crack. The ice shattered, freeing the werewolf demon. Whoa. The creature let out an ear-splitting howl, snarling viciously. Shut up. Rei-ao delivered a single punch, instantly shattering its jagged fangs. The demon whimpered, cowering before him. Vignette glanced sideways at Rao, impressed by his ruthless efficiency. The reason he hadn't killed it outright was simple. It had intelligence. That meant it might hold valuable information. Talk. Where are you from? Rao demanded coldly. The demon eyed Rao's fist fearfully but remained silent, its body trembling. Then it opened its mouth and let out a string of guttural, unintelligible sounds. Rao frowned. It's not speaking any language we know. Vignette muttered in frustration. As a demon, she had an extensive understanding of infernal languages, but this one was entirely foreign to her. But Rao's eyes gleamed with a sudden realization. He activated the ability he had recently gained. Demon King. Boom. Black and crimson lightning crackled around his body, sending waves of oppressive energy rippling through the room. Tomb. The atmosphere grew unbearably heavy. Yumeko and Yue both collapsed to their knees under the suffocating pressure, struggling to breathe. Even Vignette instinctively summoned holy light to shield herself from the overwhelming force. And then something bizarre happened. Vignette, a demon, knelt. With trembling reverence, she clasped her hands together, bowing her head. Alongside the werewolf demon, she spoke the same words in unison, All hail the Demon King. Chapter 116, Ente Ayala? The Demon King. At this moment, Rao truly embodied the presence of a Demon King. His piercing black and red eyes exuded an icy authority. Two sharp horns crowned his head, and dark, flowing patterns streaked across his cheeks, emphasizing his regal and ominous aura. The transformation wasn't just physical. His strength had multiplied many times over, and he could now sense even the faintest traces of emotions in the air. Raphael's nervousness. Vignette's shock. Yu and Yumiko's overwhelming fear. It was as if he could reach out and manipulate these negative emotions, converting them into a power he could control. He was like an elemental spirit master, but instead of manipulating fire or water, he commanded despair, fear, and anger. Still, what surprised him most was Vignette's instinctive reverence and the werewolf demon's immediate subservience. Even though he wasn't their demon king, they both knelt before him, declaring their loyalty. The language barrier, too, was no longer an issue. Rao could suddenly understand the werewolf demon's speech. Tell me, his voice cold and commanding. Where do you come from? Lowering its head submissively, the werewolf demon spoke. I come from the Holy Cross continent of Ante Isla, O Demon King. As it continued to explain, Rao pieced together the information. The Holy Cross continent had 5 regions. North, South, East, West, and Central. Arranged in the shape of a cross, surrounded by vast oceans. The name Holy Cross originated from this unique geography. 2 moons hung in the sky above this world, the red moon and the blue moon. The werewolf demon revealed that it was a member of the Demon King Satan's army, part of the forces led by one of Satan's generals. It had arrived in this world unintentionally. Without magic, its powers had been drained. However, it discovered that consuming the negative emotions of humans, especially fear, could restore its energy. That's why it had been drawn to the cinema, lured by the potent fear of the moviegoers. With the information gathered, Rao released his Demon King form. The oppressive atmosphere dissipated, and the air in the theater began to flow freely again. Rao. What was that just now? Vignette asked hesitantly, her voice tinged with awe and uncertainty. Even now, her body still trembled from the instinctive compulsion to kneel before him. That form, that aura. She could only describe it with one word, Demon King. Rao replied nonchalantly. Just one of my powers. You don't need to worry about it. He quickly shifted the topic to the information he'd extracted. The demon is indeed from another world, but I can confirm it's not the dragon realm. What? Raphael and Vignette were stunned. An otherworldly demon. Not from the dragon realm? Rao had deduced this with certainty because the Holy Cross continent, the Demon King Satan, and the general structure described by the werewolf matched a setting he knew well. It was from an anime he'd watched, The Devil is a Part-Timer. This means another parallel world is connecting with ours, Rao continued. If it continues, it could become the second major convergence. Raphael's expression grew grim. The dragon realm alone was already causing chaos across the 3 realms of Earth, Heaven, and Hell. Now, another potentially hostile world was being introduced into the mix? Raphael said firmly. We'll clean up the evidence here and report this demon to the higher-ups immediately. As for those 2. Her gaze shifted to Yu and Yumeko, who were still frozen in shock. Leave them to me. I'll handle it. Fine, just be careful, Rao replied with a nod. Raphael and Vignette quickly erased the traces of the incident, taking the frozen werewolf demon with them as they left in a hurry to make their report. Rao then walked over to where Yu and Yumiko were still sitting on the floor, overwhelmed by what they had witnessed. He extended his hands toward them, his tone gentle. Do you need help getting up? The stark contrast between his previous demonic aura and his current warmth left them momentarily speechless. After exchanging a hesitant glance, they reached out and allowed him to help them up. Rao firmly took hold of their hands and led them out of the theater. On the sidewalk by the roadside, with the occasional car passing by, both Yu and Yumiko finally regained their composure. Yumiko stayed silent, her thoughts swirling with the implications of what she had seen. It was Yu who eventually broke the silence. Rao-kun, was that some kind of movie special effect? Her voice carried the mix of hope and denial, desperately wishing his answer would reassure her. Rao shook his head. No. Everything you saw was real. Ah. Yu forced a nervous laugh, trying to convince herself otherwise. Haha, Rao-kun, don't tease me like that. Rao didn't press the matter further. Instead, he placed his hands gently on their shoulders. You'll understand in time, he said softly. In the next moment, the world seemed to spin uncontrollably for them. Where am I? As the scenery settled, Yu's eyes widened in shock as she recognized the house before her. This is my house. Even Yumiko, who already knew about Rao's abilities and strange powers, was utterly dumbfounded. This is incredible. In the blink of an eye, they had been transported from one place to another. Despite feeling slightly dizzy, the phenomenon left them speechless. Rao calmly addressed Yu. This is indeed your house, he said. As for everything that happened earlier, I assure you, it was all real. You might be feeling overwhelmed or scared right now. Take some time to rest and consider whether you'd like to learn more about the truth of this world. He paused, giving her a moment to absorb his words. Or, if you prefer, there are people I know who can help erase these memories entirely. Yu stood frozen, struggling to process the whirlwind of events. What started as a simple outing to thank him had turned into an unexpected date, then nearly devolved into a love triangle. And then, everything took a surreal turn with the supernatural events she had witnessed. It was all too much. Finally, she forced a shaky smile and said, Haha, Rao-kun, you're really good at magic tricks. I really enjoyed today. It was fun. Let's go out again sometime, okay? With that, she turned and walked toward her house, trying to steady herself. Click. The door shut behind her. Yumiko watched Yu leave, her heart heavy. She's forcing herself to smile. It's fake. She'll need time to process it all, Rao replied with a knowing look. You should understand that feeling better than anyone, don't you? Yumiko's face flushed red. What are you implying? I'm just annoyed at you, that's all. Is that so? Rao smirked and reached into his pocket, pulling out an object Yumiko recognized instantly. A condom? Yumiko's eyes widened in disbelief. Rao's smile grew wider. My dear Yumiko, not only have you been tailing me all day, but you're also carrying this. Care to explain yourself? That's not mine. It belongs to you. Yumiko stammered in panic, desperately trying to clarify. But then Rao reached into her pocket and pulled out several more condoms. What about these? He asked, his playful tone laced with mischief. You wouldn't be planning to use them with someone else, would you? He knew full well they weren't hers. He was teasing her on purpose. Of course not. I'd only. Yumiko trailed off, realizing she'd fallen into his trap. She clamped her mouth shut, but it was too late. Only with me? Rao pressed. Yumiko's face burned with embarrassment. She had practically confessed. Rao took her hand gently. I'll take that as a confession, then. Before she could react, the world shifted around them once more. When Yumiko opened her eyes, they were standing in front of a building with a bright neon sign that read hotel. Her breath caught in her throat. Why? Why did you bring me here? She stammered, her voice shaking. Rao smirked, leaning closer. What do you think we're here for? Yumiko's mind raced, her heart pounding. Before she could spiral further, Rao straightened up and said casually. Yumiko, you were jealous of you earlier, weren't you? Absolutely not. She snapped, crossing her arms. I don't like you, you jerk. Is that so? Rao raised an eyebrow. He turned to walk away, muttering. Well, I was planning to confess to you today. Maybe I'll just go back to her instead. Hearing this, Yumiko's heart skipped a beat. She could see through his transparent provocation, but that didn't stop her from panicking. Without thinking, she reached out and grabbed his arm. No. You're not allowed to go back. She exclaimed. Yumiko couldn't stand the idea of him pursuing Yu. If she couldn't resist his charm, then Yu, her sweet and trusting best friend, certainly wouldn't stand a chance. Why are you like this? She grumbled, punching him lightly in the stomach with a weak fist. You're such a jerk. You said you'd pursue me, but this is how you do it? Her voice grew louder as her frustration bubbled over. All you've done is use Yua to provoke me. You're so despicable. Her words, spoken with deliberate emphasis, were the harshest she could muster. Yet to Rao, they sounded as sweet as a spring breeze. Seizing the moment, he pulled Yumeko into his embrace. He felt her body tremble slightly but, after a pause, she slowly wrapped her arms around his waist. A smile tugged at Rao's lips as he whispered in her ear. Yumeko, will you be my girlfriend? There was a long silence, and then Yumeko, shy but pretending to be annoyed, finally replied. Idiot. I was the one who confessed to you first. You should answer me first. Rao chuckled, his mind drifting back to the school infirmary where she had indeed confessed first. My answer is simple. Wah. Yumeko cried out in surprise as Rao suddenly scooped her up in his arms and carried her into the hotel. Inside the room. Rao, there are cameras in here, maybe we should. Yumeko stammered, trying to back out in a moment of nervousness. But Rao reassured her with a confident smile. Don't worry, I checked. There aren't any cameras. Okay. Her protest silenced, Yumeko realized there was no escaping tonight. Blushing deeply, she pleaded softly. Then at least turn off the lights. No problem. Rao obliged, turning off the lights. Though darkness filled the room, it didn't hinder his vision at all. At Yua's house. Yua? What's wrong? Hearing the sound of the door, Mrs. Uegahama emerged from her bedroom in her pajamas, her face filled with concern. She saw Yua at the entrance, looking utterly exhausted. Nothing, Mom, I just got tired from hanging out. I'll head to bed now. Yua forced a smile and brushed past her mother, tossing her bag onto the sofa before dragging herself to her bedroom. Once everything quieted down, Mrs. Uegahama hesitated before approaching the sofa. She picked up Yua's bag and opened it. Her eyes widened in shock. The 6 condoms she had discreetly placed inside earlier were all gone. Remembering Yua's tired and worn-out expression, Mrs. Uegahama came to her own conclusion. She sighed deeply, her heart aching for her daughter. Which boy is so inconsiderate that he'd tire her out like this? Still, this seemed to confirm that Yua's boyfriend was quite capable. She'd heard that such traits could lead to a harmonious marriage later, though she didn't fully understand these things herself. Sigh. She exhaled heavily, hoping that Yua's boyfriend was a responsible young man. Someone who would marry her after graduation. Mrs. Uegahama had no objections to her daughter's romantic endeavors, but she also didn't want Yua to get hurt. Ironically, Yui wasn't heartbroken. Her mother's assumptions were completely off. Yui was simply overwhelmed by her experiences that day. Lying in bed, her mind was a whirlwind of images from the cinema. The monsters, the angels, the demons. Rao. It's all too much. Clutching her head in frustration, Yui couldn't make sense of the day's events. Her thoughts lingered on Rao's words, take some time to rest and decide what you want. Decide. She buried her face in the soft pillow, pushing all thoughts aside. Right now, she didn't want to think about anything. She just wanted to sleep and hope that everything would make sense in the morning. Phew. Within moments, Yua drifted off to sleep. In her dreams, she had already forgotten Yumeko's existence entirely. Chapter 117, Mabel Ray Vale, God-Freezing Sword. Mrs. Uegahama had no idea what Yui was currently enduring. While Yui might be having a sweet dream, Yumeko was finally experiencing firsthand the reality of what Sukobu Jujime and the others always discussed when it came to Rao. What it truly meant to be a man. She never imagined it was possible to feel blissfully happy and on the brink of death at the same time. Rao, No need to explain, Yumeko. Weren't you trying to protect Yua? Try harder. If you slack off, I might just go confess to her instead. That's just too much. Late at night, on a dimly lit and deserted street. A girl dressed in icy blue, as if carved from frost, stood trembling and crying. Where is this place? Fearfully gripping a sword made of ice, the girl prepared to embark on her otherworldly adventure. In the early hours of the morning. Rao. Please. Have mercy. Yumeko had completely lost her earlier confident demeanor. All her strength was gone, she'd learned the hard way not to drink more than she could handle. Or bite off more than she could chew. Rao, who was preparing for one last round, was interrupted by a notification from the chat group. Ding. Mabel Ray Vale has joined the chat group, Fryron. Oh? A new member, welcome. Stella, Fryron, do you ever sleep? Fryron, of course I do, but I'm very perceptive. Any activity wakes me up. Stella, and you're talking to me right now because. Rao, instead of chatting, how about focusing on the newcomer? Sakurajima, shouldn't we be worrying about you instead? Stella, what's wrong with Rao? Sakurajima, I woke up and found he wasn't home. Rao, I told you in the morning. I'm on a date. Stella, you left your girlfriend at home for a date, and you're flaunting it? Truly, Rao. Rao, this is a private matter. My Sakurajima, shouldn't you be back by now? Rao, not yet. My Sakurajima. Rao, I'm currently with Yumeko. Oh? At that exact moment, he felt Yumeko tighten her grip around him. Rao's eyes lit up. Rao, I'll head back once I've finished discussing things with Yumeko. As expected, just mentioning Yumeko's name provoked a reaction. Satisfied, Rao continued. Those familiar with him immediately understood the subtext. My Sakurajima. Mai was speechless. Earlier, he'd said he was on a date with Yue, and now he was with Yumeko. Rao's escapades were becoming more and more outrageous, and Mai could hardly keep up. Frieren, impressive as always, Rao. Stella, what's there to praise? Shizu Aizawa, it's always lively here. Nice. Stella, this isn't lively. It's chaos. Sakobujujima, chaos can be a form of harmony. Shizu Aizawa, agreed. Suai, speaking of, isn't the newcomer going to say anything? Rao, Mabel_Ray Vale, I've shortened your nickname to Mabel. Anything you'd like to share or ask? The name immediately reminded Rao of someone. When he checked the newcomer's profile, his suspicions were confirmed. Name, Mabel, level 1, abilities, none, possession, God-freezing sword. The confirmation came from the sword itself. It tied her to the same world as Suai. Mabel, I'm so hungry. Shizu Aizawa, huh? Suai, then eat something. Mabel, I have no food. Rao, why don't you tell us your story? Yumeko, wait, Rao, at a time like this. Hey. Rao, Yumeko, it's about welcoming the new member. Let's wrap things up, shall we? Mabel, I was abandoned. Mabel, I'm the last descendant of the Ice Clan, but today I was cast out. Sob sob sob. Suai, Ice Clan? Something clicked in Suai's mind. Suai, your Ice Clan. Do you guard the God-freezing sword? Mabel, how do you know that? The God-freezing sword is with me right now. Suai, I've heard of the Ice Clan and their connection to the God-freezing sword. Stella, what kind of weapon is the God-freezing sword? Is it powerful? Suai, very. It's said to be capable of defeating the fire dragon, an immensely strong being. Stella, that does sound impressive. But if you're so important, why were you abandoned? Mabel, because everyone said I was lazy and greedy. Mabel, I don't know, I was just following my mother's teachings. Sigh. Rao let out a long sigh. After releasing everything he had, he finally relaxed, but a smirk lingered on his face as he observed Mabel fumbling with her words. This girl getting exiled wasn't a surprise. It seemed her clan had long been fed up with her. Rao, a parasite who refuses to work, living off the legacy of her ancestors, depending solely on the God-freezing sword. Rao, hey, was this what your mother taught you? Stella, ha ha ha. Are you kidding me? This doesn't sound like a teaching. It's a guide to being useless. Frieren, it's hard to believe a powerful clan would adopt something so absurd as their principle. Right? Even Frieren wasn't entirely certain about her conclusion. Suai, the Ice Clan's legends are pretty grand. It doesn't make sense for them to be so odd. Having read about their legends, Suai still held some respect for the Ice Clan. Suai, right, Mabel? Mabel. On the roadside, Mabel hugged her knees and trembled. Am I really just useless? No. That's impossible. Mabel, and my mom was amazing. Suai? Sakobujujima, she didn't really answer the question. Stella, wait. Don't tell me she's actually this useless? My Sakurajima, an entire clan built on laziness. Is that even possible? Suai, I don't know anymore. I only read about them in a book about Ice Clan legends. Even Suai was beginning to doubt herself and felt the need to distance herself from the situation. Mabel's face turned as red as a ripe apple. She had to prove her mother's greatness. Mabel, my mom was super decisive and bold. When I was 9, she ran off with a younger man. Mabel, isn't that amazing? Frieren, that's called abandonment. Shizu Aizawa, are you sure amazing is the right word for that? Rao, no need to question it. Abandonment is exactly what it is. And yes, that's very much a problem. As Rao expected, the Ice Clan's situation was as ridiculous as he thought. Mabel, supposedly a guardian of the God-freezing sword, was only at level 1, as weak as an ordinary human. Mabel's eyes filled with tears. She'd just been brutally called out by everyone. And deep down, she knew her mother had abandoned her. But she couldn't cry now. She had to prove her worth. Mabel, my mom was great at business. She even sold the secrets of the Ice Clan as a book and made a ton of money. Tsukobujujima, Did I hear that correctly? Shizu Aizawa, I think. Probably. Maybe you did? Stella, PFFT. That's not just betrayal. That's outright treason. Selling your secrets isn't keeping them secret anymore. Suai, books. Oh. I know. Frieren, what do you know? Suai, the book I bought about the Ice Clan's legends. That must have been written by her mom. My Sakurajima. I don't even know how to respond to this. Rao, no need to overthink it. Just know that the Ice Clan is absolutely unbelievable. Rao, Mabel, so you've been following your mom's guide to being useless, and that's why you were exiled, right? Mabel, I'm not useless. Her voice trembled as tears streamed down her face. But then her stomach let out a loud growl, adding insult to injury. Mabel, why? First, I'm abandoned, and now I'm stuck in a completely unfamiliar place with no one to help me. Sob sob sob. Suai, even though we're in the same world, I can't help you without knowing your location. Tsukobujujima, what do you mean by unfamiliar place? Mabel, I don't know. It's just very unfamiliar. Stella, you're not making this any easier for us to help you. Mabel, sob sob sob. Tsukobujujima, maybe you could ask Rao for help directly? Mabel, how? Rao, see, could you give me food? Rao, you can initiate a trade with me. Mabel, trade. She thought of the new knowledge in her mind. This chat group is so magical, it should be able to save me, right? Clinging to this last ray of hope, Mabel initiated a trade. Ding. Mabel has initiated a trade request, trade content, hungry, she wants to eat a full meal. Mabel waited nervously. In just a few seconds, a reply appeared. Ding. Your trade request has been approved, trade conditions, God Freezing Sword, ding. Confirm the trade? Freezing. God Freezing Sword? No way, no way. Mabel clutched the God Freezing Sword tightly. If she lost the sword, she really wouldn't have any chance to turn things around. Fortunately, the system promptly clarified that trading it wouldn't mean permanently losing the God Freezing Sword. Phew. That's a relief. The once precious sword was tossed carelessly to the roadside. After confirming the trade conditions, Mabel now only wanted a proper meal. Ding. The trade begins, trade partner, Mabel, trade content, hungry, she wants to eat a full meal. Trade conditions, God Freezing Sword, duration, unlimited Suai, she really traded away an artifact? Stella, and just for a meal. Frieren, what can we even say? It seems the Ice Clan is truly a group of freeloaders. Mabel, wah, I was starving. What else could I do? Tsukobujujima, wait, doesn't anyone notice something strange about this trade? Shizu Aizawa, the duration is unlimited. My Sakurajima, I have a bad feeling about this. Taru, oh, it's like my situation when I first came over. Maybe Mabel's in this world too. Suai, huh? How is that possible? Rao, not sure? Let me check it out. Rao leaned down and gently kissed the forehead of a half-asleep Yumeko. Yumeko, rest for a bit. I'll be back soon. Exhausted, Yumeko had wanted to hold on to him for a moment longer, but her entire body felt like it was falling apart. Instead, she replied with a soft, blissful smile. Wah. On the side of the road, Mabel whimpered. The occasional cars passing by terrified her. She had never seen such steel creatures before. The towering buildings around her made her feel even smaller and more insignificant. As someone who was a complete shut-in, the sights overwhelmed her mind. This world really isn't yours. A voice suddenly came from behind her, startling Mabel. She turned around cautiously. Standing before her was a man who didn't look frightening at all. In fact, he was quite pleasing to the eye. Mabel, is that you? The man called her by name. Mabel immediately gripped the God-Freezing Sword tightly, her guard up. Who are you? At that moment, her demeanor was surprisingly striking. Her eyes sparkled like frost, and her aura radiated a serene, icy elegance. Even Rao couldn't help but take another glance at her. But he knew this was only a facade. I'm Rao, the one who just traded with you. Hearing his name, Mabel reacted dramatically. Clang. The God-Freezing Sword, considered her most treasured possession, was unceremoniously tossed aside. She dashed toward him like a gust of wind, clutching his clothes as tears streamed down her face. Wah. I'm starving. Please save me. Her icy demeanor shattered instantly, revealing a dramatic, almost clownish desperation. What was a contrast? This was a contrast. Except, her disheveled state completely overshadowed any charm her demeanor once held.